if this freaking works at all.
Yes, yes, of course, of course.
Yeah, we can do a little sound test if need be.
Well, I got the notification saying we're live.
Okay.
Are we live? Let's see. Let's see.
Yes,
I
of
hit.
course, of
If
course.
I hit
Yeah,
play,
do a little
does it
sound
work?
test. Yep, I'm getting everything.
There we go. All right, all right, all right. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen.
Greetings,
Well,
everyone. Welcome to another weekly manga roundup podcast. God, we gotta shorten that name. I get winded.
We do.
Manga podcast, everybody. That's the informal name now. But yeah, sorry it's been a little delayed. Things were hectic this weekend, so yeah. Anyway,
For both of us. I delayed it at first, and then Keishan had to delay it, or the other way around. And so we decided rather than try to rush it, let's pick a time where we can both still do it and get caught up before next week. That's all.
Dirty bastards, people.
Yes, exactly.
But anyway, what mutual manga will we tackle first? Or should we tackle Seven Deadly Sins, considering it's fresh on our minds?
It's fresh on our minds, and we also have 2 chapters to cover, I believe, Keishan, because...
Oh, God, that's only one series. I have multiple chapters for this week.
Oh, well, there you go,
there you go. It's ridiculous.
Well, I actually have a double one. I don't know how new or old it is, and you might be able to tell me that Manga Stream posted the first 2 chapters of, so I was going to talk about that one called The Morning Bride. It had 2 chapters.
I saw that, but I know nothing of it.
Yeah, I don't know. See, that's the thing, guys, and that's not just for me and Keishan, but that's for everyone. Sometimes on some of our favorite scan sites, we do not know. Sometimes we find out later on that, wow, our favorite scan sites, we think it's a new series. Meanwhile, it has 10, 20 chapters already, and they just picked it up. So yeah. I don't know if this is actually a new series or not.
That actually happened to me. I thought I was reading it was going to be 1 chapter for a series that updates maybe every 6 months. It's called Haikaiju or Hakaiju. It's basically... have you heard of it?
I think I've heard of it. I don't think I've read it.
It's basically just giant monsters coming out of the ground, and like Japan is just being wasted. It's ridiculous. I thought, 1 new chapter, awesome, it's been a while. And then I go to look back and I was like, oh, cool, there was 2 chapters because like it updated another one. And I was like, wait, I thought it was 28 that came out and this is saying 27. And then I scroll down and there's like 10 fucking new chapters.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
And they're monthly length. So I have not gotten anywhere with those just yet. So.
Well, as I said, there's some things to talk about, but I think we should definitely tackle Seven Deadly Sins because, of course, guys, the release schedules are always crazy when you follow multiple series. Not everything happens on a Friday. So in this case, the Seven Deadly Sins chapter actually came out early, and we were late with our podcast. So even though it's a rough translation, I think Keisha and I agreed that we can go through 320 and 321 because there's a big enough. There's a good enough translation to get the gist of what's going on, and I think it's very
even though they called it Fallen Garden instead of Pollen Garden.
Right, exactly. And there were, I know there was some, and there was also some grammar mistakes and stuff, and they didn't translate some stuff yet. So, but nonetheless, we could start off with 320. What did you think of just 320 leading up, Keishan?
I mean, we may not get the full Frieza treatment with the Demon King. Which is something, I was kind of rooting for. I was like, let's see what he looks like at the end of the day, But it's still the same problems we've been having the last few weeks. It's like they could have been dealing with him a lot more effectively than they have. Even if it was just Meliodas and Elizabeth. I mean, she's known as Bloody Ellie. We haven't seen her do bloody anything. So, it can be disappointing. And to be honest, 321 was kind of even more of a letdown, except for the final hype moment, but we'll get to that. What do you think?
320 once again. I think for everyone in the chat and everyone that this is and everyone listening, and for Kishin as well, this is something where you can have a mediocre chapter in a series. There has been mediocre, even I would argue, bad chapters in things as greatly praised as One Piece. However, when you have an arc that is, I'll use the word hated or despised, the direction that this took, it has been not, the fan base despises it. There's no other way to say it. In a general majority rules, it's just not good. So even when you have a semi-mediocre chapter like this, where nothing really too bad, no dialogue that just totally breaks the series, no scenes or anything like that are breaking it, but during this stage, having a mediocre chapter, it might as well be a bad chapter. I feel like that's the problem, is that because it's not a fantastic chapter, everyone looks on its shit because everyone hates the direction. Nobody likes what's happening in the series right now. So even if the chapter itself as standalone is fine from a single 19-page perspective, people tend to judge it more harshly. I do the same thing. I did it with Shokugeki no Soma, which fell off, and I've been doing it with Seven Deadly Sins. But suffice it to say, outside of that little reasoning, that little thing, that's the way I think everyone's viewing it right now. I thought the Demon King went a very gothic route. I think Brandon Lee's going to sue someone if he was alive. For those of you who don't know, that's a reference to the Crow movie. It's quite an old movie now. And because he looks like a bearded version of the Crow, I don't get why he's got a katana. That makes no sense.
Yeah, because I saw your review of this, and I remember you bringing that up.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Does the design overall, if you're into the gothic design, does it look cool? Yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. It's definitely a different look, and it's menacing looking, but there are just a couple of flaws with it, and as we said, it's kind of getting the Frieza treatment. Every couple of chapters, we're getting a new form, and it's getting a little old here. So
in the new chapter, I thought he was going to do it again.
Yeah.
When he had the heads, and then he started whirling them around, I was like, is he going to fuse with them? So now we're getting fusion now.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, no.
The same thing.
So at least it got not to the point we were fearing of, it's like, okay, we're just going straight Dragon Ball Z with this, which can be fun, but it's been like chapter after chapter of these tropes, and it's losing any real momentum with me. I still enjoy them, but it's just like, when I can see it so blatantly, it's not a good day.
No, exactly. And I feel like this, like as I said, this was fine, but there was some stuff. I mentioned that the dialogue wasn't a problem, but there was one thing that I thought in 320 was a bit of an issue, was because everyone in the fan base should come together and collectively agree that the power scaling of Taizai is fucked. That's the best.
That has been for a while.
Has been for a while. There is no definite way to gauge anybody, and the Demon King is almost, if it's not Merlin herself, the Demon King is there at the center hub of where the problem started and where they have continued as far as how strong, because we are gauging power levels based on how well they have done against this Demon King, who has been failing to be as good as he should be, and all these other things, right? So I'm just sitting there, and I'm looking at this, and there's this one page where it says, "Thanks to your sacrifice, Zeldris, I have obtained my original power, rather my body and power from my youth." Okay, now we have to determine, is his youth more powerful than we saw him? And is, of course, people keep saying Purgatory, like this is still not as strong as Purgatory one, and blah, 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 and stuff. So lines like this do nothing but confuse the fan base, and I hate the fact that they brought it up. If you're going to state something like that, Nakaba, stop being a tease. Just say, I am more powerful than I have ever been. Period. Done. We can move on. The fan base it's unanimous. They can't argue it anymore. leaving this open-ended thing, like, well, is this one how much stronger? Like, was the second form as strong as the Purgatory one? Is this form stronger? Was the Meliodas one stronger? We have no idea.
And
Is this one
also,
strong?
why is he so damn small?
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for that too. Like, why is he so compacted and stuff? There's just a lot to go through with that. But as I said, the rest of the chapter for me, it simply goes, they fight, we showcase a little bit. He has to go Demon Mark to be even Steven, and I feel like they're kind of even in this fight. But eventually he activated the ruler that we can summarize here. Elizabeth realizes that after he uses Godslayer. He still got slashed by the physical attacks, but he activated the ruler, and the magical portion of it didn't really do anything. Then, of course, the Sins show up. What do you think here at the end of 320, Keishan? The Sins showing up, and this whole Meliodas, like, just shocked and bewildered, and this whole, like, I don't know. I'm fine with the Sins showing up, but what do you think of the Endora being off-screened and them showing up and Meliodas for some reason being bewildered?
I'm still bewildered to why they brought the heads with them. It's like, why? First I thought it was the whole Endura, but that's more defined in the next chapter that it's just their heads. Which, it's like, okay, you beheaded the Endura dragon thing, so it's like, okay, why'd you bring it? But it's good to see them again. You know, they are the 7 deadly sins. They're supposed to be a group, and they've not been consistently together for a little bit. It's very much the Straw Hat scenario. So, and you know, because Meliodas has been wanting, it's like, I'm doing this alone. This is my thing. I don't want to involve them. It's like, so his like shock at them being there is understandable, but as it's mentioned, the Sins do not do things alone, you know, if one of their members is in need. It's one of their rules, which I wish we could get a more definitive list on this, because it's so scattershot to when you get any of those rules or a reminder that they even exist.
Yeah, I would agree to that. And I just, for me personally, like, also the Q&A, once again, what a waste. Like, and it doesn't actually make sense.
I've given
Q&A,
up reading them.
Yeah, the Q&A in this chapter, just, well, since you are not aware, Keishan, is they basically asked, in all of Elizabeth's reincarnation up until now, has she had actual parents? Nakaba said, of course she's had different kinds of parents, all different kinds of parents. That makes no goddamn sense considering Danafor. Elizabeth was not a newborn when Meliodas pulled her literally 5 seconds after Liz died. He blew the place up and walked out with a baby. I would argue, not born 5 seconds ago sized baby. So, is it random? Do we have Virgin Marys walking all around the place? Sometimes Elizabeth reincarnates? That's such a bad retcon. He's screwing up his own rules and story, to me personally. And anyway, so I just, once again, a lot of people are upset by this. I'm upset by the simple fact that I brought it up is the fact that the Endora was off screen. Once again, the Sinner treatment was terrible. The Sinner was hyped up and treated like trash. It was just something to distract us from having one villain. Nakaba, because Nakaba has screwed up the power scaling so much to the point that he can't have all these characters fight the Demon King. Because they'll just win. They'll foderize him.
Yeah.
So he couldn't have that. And he didn't want Meliodas and Elizabeth to look weak against the Demon King. So he had to distract them somehow. So he kills off the Sinner unceremoniously. Then he off screens the Endora, the thing that was hyped for over 130 chapters. The Endora, the epitome of demons, something the archangels feared, and the Sins are taking this thing out and off screening him. So. See, that's the problem with chapters like this. Like, for everything where it's like, okay, it's not a terrible chapter, you have to look at the implications of things like that, and it just... Anyways, that's all I have to say about really 320. There's not really much more. I just felt the need to bring up that Endora thing. The Endora being off-screened is just a middle finger to the fan base, who we have felt the hype. The hype has been there for the Endora for over 100 chapters, and this is what we got. So,
and this was supposed to be like, you know, presumably a higher degree of Endura as well. So, I mean, it's great to see the Sins, be as powerful as they are, but, you expected more of a fight for such a beast.
Mm-hmm.
But such the way things go, I suppose. Especially in this series nowadays, wouldn't you agree?
Yep, I absolutely would. That being said, any final thoughts on 320 before we move on to 321? I don't mean to rush, ladies and gentlemen. I don't. Usually, Keishan and I would go a little more in depth, maybe a little more, gripes about a panel or here. But since we're trying to cover 2 chapters plus the rest of the podcast, it just makes sense. Yeah. So, if there's nothing else, Keishan, we could move on to 321, which once again, ladies and gentlemen, it has been roughly translated. It's kind of it's not the be all and end all.
My overall thoughts of it were basically, this just kind of didn't do much at all.
Yeah. What did you think of Meliodas freaking out at Bond initially? Once again, we've had him be all melancholy, like, I can't ask them for help. They can't. For some reason, this once again breaks his character completely and everything that's led up to it. And Meliodas is one of the most three-dimensional protagonists in manga, I would say, like current running manga. And this is kind of like retconning or backtracking what he should know or have learned. Like, he shouldn't be acting this way. And then his reaction here at the beginning of the chapter, what did you think?
Like I mentioned previously, like they have this whole code of honor, their rules and such. And it's like, we know Meliodas doesn't want to involve them, but, it's kind of how their group has been for however long it's been in existence. To be honest, I kind of wonder what they called themselves before there were 7 members. But, that's neither here nor there.
Our group of vagabonds.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like a reasonable thing, because he's rather pissed off. It's like, I've been intentionally leaving you guys out, and you continue to show up and help me. Why are you helping me? Because you're our buddy.
Yeah. The fact that Meliodas would question it in the first place is why a lot of people are, I guess, upset. And I feel that, because he shouldn't be like, this isn't your fight. Like, you literally created and gathered these people, you and Merlin. You gathered them to fight the Demon Clan, to end the Holy War. That is literally their job. You formed this order. Now, after all this time and going through all this stuff for 300 chapters plus of this series, when it's at the climax, at the crescendo, now it's not their problem. That it just breaks a lot of the, just breaks a lot of things, a lot of rules here, man. Though I didn't mind Bond in this chapter. I thought Bond had some good dialogue, where he basically said, "Yeah, we're here to help you and stuff," but he said, "Hey, just a question. Did you come, survive through purgatory just to basically go on a suicide mission with Elizabeth? You know that's not what you did. You want to survive and live happily together. You want your happy ending. You deserve your happy ending." And I'm like, is Bond the fan base right now? Is Bond literally, everyone, slapping Meliodas in the face a little bit and just going, wake the fuck up. This is not your character.
Maybe it's Nakaba actually listening for once. Who knows?
It could be. As I said, it would be. It's something like when I complained about the cover pages and the questions not being used properly. That's when we did get a cover page and a question that was very Nakaba. Now he hasn't done it since, but so yeah, I guess the rest of the chapter really just moves on. We get basically reactions, and this is a problem with chapters like this when we have characters. They all basically need to have a line, say a line. So it's not a waste of pages, especially since it's characters and stuff, but where, once again, as I said in the previous chapter, where you can't do this right now, Nakaba. When you have a bad arc, you need to move stuff along. You need to get back to the good writing, things people will appreciate, and we'll look back on this as just a black mark. 30 bad chapters. Fine. We'll move on, and we'll have another good 50 chapters from here on out. And then people later on will look back after everyone's calmed down and go, I think it started to get back okay around chapter 320, 321. and by 3:30 we were back on track. But if you keep doing stuff like this where you're wasting time, now's not the time where you can just kill 5-6 pages with random needs a line, sort of idea. At least that's the way I felt.
Yeah, there's weird kind of like backtracking on certain established bits, and then there's a stumble, and then it acts like it's getting back on track just for the next chapter to falter again. And it's like you've definitely seen the trends. 300 was like we thought, oh, the peak of the mountain. We're reaching the climax and finale of this series, and then you find out there's a whole nother half of the mountain that we're just going to start tumbling down because Nakaba forgot to bring a rope.
Yeah, I think honestly, to use your mountain analogy, and as I said, I've always been very unhappy with 300. A lot of people weren't, if we recall, when we're still doing the Boar's Hat podcast together on Grim Reaper's channel. There was a lot of people were fine with 300 and 301 and 302 and 303, and I was the one that kept saying, guys, I love Bond, one of my favorite characters, but this Demon King stuff, this Vessel stuff, this Bond beating him up stuff, none of this is good. None of this makes sense. And now everyone, as you said, Kishan, people are looking back and they're toting 300 as the start of the fall. And it's just like, yeah, guys, like, how did you not see it before? Like, hype moments, once again, as we talked about last time, hype moments does not a good chapter or a good arc make. Like, as I said, we'll talk about the ending of this chapter, but that does not make a great chapter. It's a good character moment in the chapter. So, but anyway, we have the Demon King. What did you think of him, like, basically rising the heads up, and sort of being like, ha ha ha, I will control them and charge them with fire and anger and hatred and flame and all this other stuff. And
I thought he was going to fuse with them. I said that earlier.
Yes.
Those were my thoughts. I was like, oh my god, are we getting another form already? It's like
I kind of thought that too, like he was going to absorb the power of the Endura, and it was going to be like, yeah, like when he first
like a new armor, and it would look kind of like them, and get like maybe a new weapon or something. But thankfully, that didn't work out.
No, that didn't happen. And actually, I think this is an okay design. I think the Zeldris designs overall for the Demon King have been fine. So I don't need another design. I don't need a new design. What I need is some good goddamn storytelling.
I mean, in like 10 chapters, we've gotten like 4 or 5 forms. It's like we've had enough. Let's see what the forms can actually do.
And a lot of people wanted him to go back, and I kind of agreed with it. They want to see some more symbolism or some similarities between the Purgatory form and this, to reference that he is reaching close to his original power, like the power we saw. And I'm kind of curious, too, as to why he isn't getting more and more like his true form. I mean, that's just an aesthetic choice, I guess, but I don't think anybody disliked the Viking helmet wearing Demon King badass looker.
Yeah, I rather liked him. He was ominous because you never could see his face. He obviously had a weapon that matched, his intimidating demeanor, because it's like the thing didn't even really have that much of a point, But it was a weapon that if you knew you were going to get hit by it, you were probably going to die. So.
Yep. It's true.
So, it's like, it was not quite what I was expecting when it came to the Demon King, Like, it was like, he's doing cool things. It's like, I don't know. And now we're getting this condensed Demon King form, which I'm wondering if maybe he learned from that experience. He's like, okay, I'm going to be fighting these little flies, and they like to speed around. I'm going to condense down to their size.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's possible, and we do see in this chapter a couple of shots that the Demon King is still towering. Like, he's not the size of Deanne, but he's quite a lot bigger than he first was. So he is getting bigger, just not at that rate. I
did like the little trick they did to him, though. The little
Uh,
Elizabeth and Merlin deal. Like Elizabeth
oh
sends
yeah,
out her arc. Like I forget what it's called, but the translation
and
was horrible.
yeah, it's invigorate
Yeah,
is
just
what it
in.
should. I'm assuming it's a form of invigorate because that's the healing spell of the goddesses, right?
Yeah,
So I did like that, and we knew that this was going to happen, right? Because they already know how to counter ruler, but they're like, oh, he can turn it on and off. He can turn it on and off. And they're like, hold it back. Nope. Bang. Boom.
yeah.
Like
That shit-eating grin got a bit more shit in it.
yeah, that was pretty cool. Though we saw the explosion from those five heads when Merlin
Yeah,
teleported them, the Endura
that
heads,
was a
and
good panel.
even though he used ruler, I did like the teleport thing. But we see the amount of devastation the attacks of those five heads did, like from a landscape perspective. That is insane. So once again, these characters right now have at a massive amount of destruction capability.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are destroying like easily. So I really enjoy like once again the fight tactics actually even because I didn't think it was very Merlin-y bullshitty. Her using teleport and her like holding the spell back and then firing or amplifying. It's like oh no that's not actually a heal spell. Boom,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. That to me was good tactics. It's not bullshit Pokemon types and oh, I'm going to use Infinity and that's just going to do something else that we retconned for this fight. It was actually good.
Though it didn't do
Though
as much damage. It just destroyed
no,
one of his little shoulder wings, which I guess is actually more just shoulder armor than actual wings. But when I first saw them, that's all I could think they were.
yeah, agreed.
And it didn't even
Yeah,
completely destroy it. So his own attack can't even destroy his body, but you could have just. Well, it can't even be that. That it was the ruler's doing. Because he would have turned it back on.
mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
I don't know. So I guess he's. Even if it was off, good lord, that's still not a lot of damage that he did basically to himself. So, eh, I don't know. He seems too much of a mountain for these characters to even climb at this point.
He does, and but I'm not upset by the fact. I'm upset by the fact that they allowed him to get to this point. This shouldn't have even been a
Yeah.
form in the first place. But I do like that he's stopped being fodderized. Like he's actually a threat now. But what did you think? Because I know we talked about this before, and I've talked about it in my reviews many times. The whole Elizabeth purge, for God's sakes, right?
If anything,
Or
it would have weakened him. So,
yeah, and I said, and oh, even worse is the fact that I said, even worse, they could repeat the same thing they did to Demon King Meliodas during the first fight in chapter 300. They could repeat that with Gother. And I also said, even though that's terrible because that's just a repeat of the same fight we just saw, now I'm like, that makes it even doubly worse because Meliodas is like, oh, I don't need their help, but I want to get through to Zeldris. And Gother's ability let me do that last time, but this time I don't need Gother's help. And now,
yeah.
in this chapter, Captain get into his mind detached from Zeldris, nice Gother, while we're distracting the Demon King. We see Gother trying to do his mind thing. Like, what? What? I'm just oh, I don't even know. And I also don't know the fact that I understand that like they're trying to send like they're trying to defend Meliodas. Meliodas isn't really supposed to be the attacker right now, but why is he only once again staying in Demon Mark when they're clearly being pushed? Even King Bon and Meliodas are being pushed.
Yeah.
They're not being foddered, but they're being pushed. Why wouldn't he go God tier form?
Yeah,
Like,
I said that in my reaction. I was like, why is he holding back still? I mean, I know he doesn't want to kill his brother, but his brother at this point is going to be dead before you even have a chance to save him.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we see that they continue to. We saw that yes, it was a bad translation, Fallen Garden, where it's Pollen Garden, King, and actually, and we've seen the durability of this before, so this makes sense that even the Demon King can't break through it too easily. But it does say that it is breaking through after he slashes it multiple times. He continues to slash it, and they
And it
said it
does
is
seem
break.
have like a glass-like quality to it because you could see the shards after it had been broken through. So it's not like
Yeah,
made out of
yeah,
light or something. Hard to
yeah. No,
tell.
it's like a glass ball or a crystal sphere or something. That's exactly what I got out of it too. So they don't have basically time for Gotha to be trying to send Meliodas into the mind, and the Demon King is relentlessly attacking because he, of course, does not want that either. So there is a risk, and I'm fine with that. He's not making it easy for us. The pressure, doing this is too difficult. And then, boom. Now, we don't get, once again, ladies and gentlemen, we do not have a full true translation. That's why my behind the bar review for this chapter will not be out until we do get a full translation. But that's where the final page of the chapter comes in. And Keishan, what do you want to say?
The sun has risen again, my friends.
Yes, yes, it has. This came as a huge shock. Before we began the podcast, I was telling Keisha that when this first dropped, the Raws, I got not a ton of messages, but quite a few directed messages in the Discord telling, while I was at work, and I'm like, why? Like, yeah, I get it. The Raws road. It's not a big deal, guys.
It's every
And
week. This is nothing new.
Yeah. Yeah, and this page, this panel, even I just want to say, I'll say the same thing I said in the Discord. I'll say the same thing I said to Keishan. I am just sailing through. You guys, don't worry. Your captain is here. I am sailing on the SS I'm fucking right, and I've been sailing on it for over a month. And I have told everyone, Escanor is not going to just be one-shotted or fodderized by the Demon King. But even I said that he would definitely need to go the one form to do anything, like, significant. Because we've never seen the full extent of the one. This, though, he's not in the one form. And he pulls a Sosuke Aizen, stopping the blade. This blade that Demon Mark Meliodas right now is struggling. Bon and King are struggling to block this guy. It broke Pollen Garden in a dozen slashes from the Fairy King. And Escanor stopped it with his hand. No struggling. This is once again, ladies and gentlemen, I don't like the power scaling has been screwed. We've all agreed on that for a long time. That's Nakaba's fault. And one hype moment does not a chapter make. Chapter still has its flaws. This arc still has its flaws. But if Nakaba is going to screw with the power scaling of all these characters anyways,
give it to the
why
one
not?
who's always been too overpowered anyway.
Right, some of the best moments in all of Taizai, some of the best fights in all of Taizai include this guy. Love him or hate him, he's always been OP, and unlike Merlin and stuff, his power has never changed. It is limited. It's not a Deus Ex because it is a limited power, rising with the sun and all that stuff, right? It has never changed from what it was, and he never just gains newer and stronger abilities every time the situation calls for it. Like, oh, I didn't use that there because of X and Y. He doesn't continuously do that. This has been a solid character who has been OP since his introduction, and now, with all the power scaling screwed up anyway, why not make the most hype flexing character? Just bring it again. I'm still excited. I'm excited for 322, and I haven't been excited for a while. I'm excited for 322 for the sole purpose that if everything's screwed up anyways, why not just give us a badass fight with a fan favorite? Give us that. We've seen Bond do it. I'm kind of bored of it now. We've seen him both fight the Demon King Meliodas. We've seen him fight the Baby Endure and use the Salt Hunt. We've seen him do this. We've seen him do that. Then we've been seeing Meliodas fight. It's been okay. Like, if he's not going to go all out, I'm not interested. I've seen him use full counter. I've seen him do that shit before. I'm good. I've seen him do Demon Mark. I'm good. What I wanted to see was his new form. So if you're not going to give us anything new, Nakaba, at least give us the best of the old. So I'm hyped. This page, does it make sense? Of fucking course it doesn't. But I don't care because it's awesome. I really don't, because all the naysayers told me that the Escanor could not do anything, that Mael's word was law. Same with Ludoshel, who, according to Ludoshel, I mean, as we talked about before, apparently Escanor's body should have broken apart when he was a small child. That didn't happen, so why everyone's taking Miles' word that, oh, even with Sunshine, you can't fight the Demon King. I'm like, says who, you coward? Get out of here. Let a real man have Sunshine and show you how it's done. You know? So,
Yeah, he's been defying the odds his whole life. So, and
exactly.
there's no precedent for anything that Mal has said. So,
Exactly. He's the exception, not the rule. Remember, it's one of those things. Have you seen Men in Black before, Keishan?
I saw the first three. I haven't seen International.
Okay, the first one when Will Smith first figures out about aliens, and Tommy Lee Jones basically says, he goes, facts. Well, 500 years ago, it was a fact that the Earth was the center of the universe, or 1,000
Yes,
years
I
ago.
remember this.
500 years ago, the Earth was flat, and that was a fact. And 15 minutes ago, people were alone on this planet. You know, like that's the same type of mentality here. Is that Escanor is the exception, not the rule. The facts of the Goddess Clan have been proven wrong every time. So why everyone took in chapter 317 Miles' word as the goddamn gospel? He hasn't possessed sunshine for over 3,000 years. They also thought that a human couldn't possibly contain it. It would break them apart. And not only that, Escanor didn't just carry it, he used it to great effect. Like, there, as you said, Keishan, you said it best. There's no precedent for any of them to assume what Escanor can and cannot do.
I mean, they can theorize all they want, but, like, no human has ever possessed one of the graces, unless there's a weird case that we've just not been, informed of.
Absolutely. And it's entirely possible. As I said, there has been theories galore. I've made my own theories. Some are more less likely than others. Like, for example, Escanor is actually the reincarnation of the first bearer of Sunshine. Though some people will argue Sunshine was made for male and there was no original bearer. But that's just a theory. Another one is that he does have some type of original magical power when they were giving them out like Oprah Winfrey to everybody left, right, and center, right? You get an original power and you get an original...
I think it's kind of like the theory that's been going around for a while that, like, All Might, for instance, like, the reason why he was so good at using One for All was because he had, like, this unknown quirk that couldn't be activated any other time, and it's what allowed his body to, like, bulk up and survive the damage that it was taking.
Something similar to that, yeah. Like, he did actually have an original magical power, because remember, Sunshine was even stated to search for 3,000 years and went to him, not to anybody else. And Escanor was not, he was a sickly child. What made his body special? There was something about Escanor was important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just always theorized there's got to be something. We don't know yet, but it can't be cookie cutter. There's something about it, whether he like the disease or something, like he had an actual disease like Sunshine. They're all still saying that Sunshine is the thing that's killing him. It might not be killing him. Sunshine might have been saving him, similar to, as I've said before, like the Venom Eddie Brock thing. Eddie Brock has cancer. The symbiote keeps it at bay, but he has to keep the symbiote. It's a double-edged sword. Same idea with Escanor. That's a possibility. He actually has an original power that somehow allows the body to maintain sunshine or something, and it activated when, because the grace wasn't stupid. The grace is not malicious like the commandment. It wasn't searching for hosts, breaking animals and humans apart and giants and fairies one by one by one by one. We would have heard about that if Nakamoto was good at writing, so there's that. There's just so many possibilities with Escanor, and Escanor, once again, we don't know his backstory. We don't know the reason Sunshine. We don't know who Rosa was. We don't know who any of this stuff is, and once again, the exception, not the rule. There's no precedent. So the only thing that I have staked a lot of my basis on has been the fact that Merlin herself said, now once again, we could also say that Merlin, there's no precedent for this either, but says, when we first found out about the One, it was stated he is the invincible incarnation of power. Until you prove to me that the One loses, I'm going to go that was not a symbolism, but that was factual. He is power itself, for 1 minute, and I just don't believe that the one's going to lose. I just don't see it. So I'm looking. I'm looking to hope at 322. At the very least, Keishan, I think we can both agree, and I think most of the fan base can agree, even if this makes no sense, the power scaling's off to hell. It's been off for a long time, and this will be a hype fight with Escanor back.
But you can only hope.
Yeah. I mean, me and Chub Sperm in the Discord, we were theorizing that, like, what are some of the best fights? And it's all because of Escanor's cocky, prideful lines. They're always quotable. They're always so arrogant, and it puts a smile on every fan's face. So what is he going to say? Like, I beat all 3 of your children, but I guess you're not a very good parent considering I had to give them a spanking. Shall I give you one? Something like that. He's going to say something freaking arrogant as all hell, and it's going to be awesome. And nobody's going to tell me it won't be. It's just going to be... Like I wish that this had like just 2 more pages of him like stopping the sword and just saying something to him. Like, this is all we get right now. But yeah. Any other hype things you want to say about?
We've about covered everything. I can't really think of anything other than just wanting to see, the Escanor epicness next week.
Yes, remember, ladies and gentlemen, I might be touted as the Escanor fanboy or fangirl, depending, because people like to try to insult me by saying that or something. I don't know. But Keishan also is not an Escanor hater at the same time. So Keishan has no problem, as far as I'm aware, with Escanor. We have a problem, as we said, with the writing currently and the power scaling and stuff, but he has never been an Escanor hater like some people.
I typically don't hate just about any kind of character unless you're made to hate them.
Right.
So,
right.
Because I try to derive, joy from even chapters that people have despised. I'll try to at least get something out of them positive the best I can. That's why I'm kind of neutral about a lot of things, because it's like I either see that there's potential for something to change for the good of the series or something thereof. And
absolutely,
Escanor's always been a positive for the series, so
at the very least, he's definitely the poster boy hype man to make people want to watch.
Oh yeah.
In season 2, what did you want to see? You wanted to see the Esteros Escanor fight. That's what everybody was waiting for. So when people tell me, well, he's not a great character, he's not good, he's not this, he's not that, I'm like, yeah, but in season 3, what am I waiting for? Season 3 drops in the fall. I'm waiting for Escanor versus Meliodas. Mm-hmm. Like, there'll be a lot of great moments, don't get me wrong, because season 3 should be really good. It's a good point in Taizai, but that's the fight I'm waiting for. I want to see that animated, so it's definitely a good hype man. That being said, if there's nothing else, Keishan, I think I've rambled. I've fangirled enough about my boy Escanor.
Yeah,
so
we've covered it now for 42 minutes.
I think we're good. Well, that's you know what? That's pretty good because that's 2 chapters.
Yeah,
that's
I know.
2 chapters.
It's just I've been looking at the counter and I was like, holy crap, we've been going. But I mean, we've covered good ground with it, so it's all for the good,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Shall we tackle One Piece now? Another big hitter for us.
Sure. Why don't you lead us off with One Piece chapter 950?
Well, only 50 more chapters until we reach 4 digits.
That's so big. That'll be
I know.
sometime next year. Assuming breaks, roughly get 40 chapters, and we're only halfway through the year, so sometime next year?
Maybe. But overall, pretty good chapter. I mean, it got a lot more done in this chapter than, say, the last few have. Like there's been, as you mentioned, the, hype moments don't always make good chapters. Well, we've gotten a lot of hype moments, interesting moments, new details on certain things that we've wanted to know. This one felt like it did more, especially than last week, where it was just focused on the prison. We didn't really get a lot done. This one, the whole deal with Kid gaining a new arm, So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
presumably this whole I thought he had the prosthetic arm attached to him, normally, as
But
prosthetics are.
he's using his devil fruit. It
Yeah,
seems.
which maybe that's not always the case, and that's just because he's makeshifting this one. Who knows? But he made one of those giant metal arms. That was pretty cool because I do love seeing like machinery and stuff drawn out in detail. So
Yeah.
I saved that panel. And then getting to see his new arm was pretty cool. Him and Killer are leaving. He busts down the gate, so now just anybody can just flood on out.
Yeah,
Luffy.
I'm I'm
Hmm?
I'm actually curious because Killer's we don't know too much about Killer, but it seems like Killer is still willing to like follow Kid and doesn't seem like he doesn't know who he is, yet he didn't seem to know who he was when he was working for Orochi, and why would Killer ever, even after being forced to laugh forever, why would he work for Orochi? So I'm very curious about the brainwashing aspects and how far it goes, because it goes, yeah, Killer, let's go, and Killer just seems to be laughing and following Kid like it's no big
It's
deal.
like
So
you lead the way, boss.
yeah, so I'm curious about the level of brainwashing that almost assuredly takes place, but how
Who's to say
strong?
there was any brainwashing at all? It could have
Well,
been
it's just
because, he knew his captain had been captured, and maybe that was all the incentive he needed to do the assassinations and stuff.
I suppose maybe he had some sort of plan, but it just seemed, especially since he also didn't recognize Zoro during their encounter, or didn't appear to. Like he just, it just appears, and he hasn't actually like mentioned Kid by name yet. He hasn't actually spoken directly to Kid. So I just feel like he's been, I don't know, brainwash might be the wrong word, but anyways, yeah. No, you're right. But this was,
Well,
you're right about the
maybe that
chapter.
fruit has caused more mental damage than we realize they can do.
Possibly, possibly. Um, the other after the kid stuff, which was cool, we moved on to the whole the populace and what they think of pirates, and Luffy actually being affected by mummy and stuff. What did you think of all that?
Luffy got what he deserved. I mean,
Oh yeah.
why did you touch them, Luffy? I know it was to kind of gain their trust and everything, but it's like, dude, you're resistant to poisons. Which I thought maybe he'll gain a resistance to some of these new viruses or something, though that really doesn't make any sense at all. But hey, One Piece has done weird shit before, so I thought, whatever. I mean, hell, Luffy blows up his frickin' skeletal system. That doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And remember, Rob Lucci even said, "You keep using stuff like this, you're shortening your life like a lot." You know.
Yeah, he's one to jump into danger that just like he'll be lucky to make it to 50.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, but I don't think the Pirate King is intended to live a long life.
Well,
But
that's true. I mean, Roger had an unknown illness. Well, hell, by the end of the series, the way Luffy's going, he'll have so many freaking things wrong with him. He'll look like an old man.
yeah, yeah, no shit, eh? Um,
He'll look worse than Garp, and Garp don't look that bad.
Art don't look bad, especially for one that went toe to toe with the Pirate King and
Yeah.
Whitebeard over the years. You know.
Hmm.
Um, I do have to say that after following the Luffy stuff, the fact that the populace, even though they were swayed by what Luffy said, they started to ask some real questions, like, okay, 20 years, why 20 years? And then they were like, how are we supposed to believe that, Ryza? You've always looked old, blah, blah, blah. And Luffy's a pirate. Well, all of the Wano country, remember, closed borders, all they know of pirates is Kaido, which is literally the problem for the last 2 decades for them. So they don't understand. So them questioning everything made actually a lot of sense. Like they just didn't just jump on the bandwagon, so to speak. And then seeing Momonosuke kind of confirmed almost everything, and Momonosuke realizing that they're not actually seeing him. They're seeing the hope of the Kazuki clan. They're seeing his father through him, being like, Odin is still with us in spirit, in a sense, and all that stuff, you know? I don't know. I just really like that. It wasn't as impactful as the speech from Luffy and stuff. But I
But it
thought
was
this
nice
was
to give Momo a moment because it
yeah.
shows that this is putting a weight on his shoulders that he's going to have to learn to carry.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to see all of these people just like as soon as they saw him, basically that confirmed everything that the other scabbards had been saying was true because last time they all saw Momo, he was 8 years old. And here he
Mm-hmm.
is,
Mm-hmm.
still that 8 year old child. And it's like, holy crap, it's all real. It's like, but hey, it's a small ember of the family, but we can help stoke the bonfires again. And we can maybe take back this country. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
What about if there's nothing else about that part? What about the whole Shutamaru Kinemon and Inarashi moment at the graveyard? That was impactful, and
Yeah.
I love that a lot of people. I think I watched Nia D. Hemmings' video about it, and guys, of course, go check out Nia D. Hemmings. He's a good reviewer. Um, he even said, "Yeah, nobody dies in One Piece. Show him this panel. Piss off."
There's
You know?
so many. But, I
Yeah,
mean,
like
it makes sense. They just kind of rushed into that battle. Like, didn't really know what they were going up against at all, probably. They just
of
had
course
piss
not.
and vinegar, and that was all they needed, apparently, but it didn't
Well,
serve them well.
I would say that these were still probably pretty good wars. They were still samurai, and they were probably still East Blue level warriors and stuff. But they're just nothing to people like the Calamities
Yeah.
or the fucking or Kaido
And I
himself.
mean,
You
this
know?
was just 10 years ago, so who's to say what, Queen, for instance, was probably had at that point as well, Maybe
Yeah.
not as advanced as what he has right now, but, one
Yep.
disease bullet that's any level of contagious, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I just wanted to bring it up because I'm honestly Shutamaru's attitude here. I'm kind of behind up until, and we'll talk about it in a bit. But this is like him just showing them like this is the wait of 20 years. You basically asked us to wait basically too long, is what he says. And because a lot of these warriors, they even said like we're in our 40s now, we won't be fighting capable in another 20 years. We can't wait any longer. They had no guarantees. Like 20 years was too long.
Yeah.
Like I was totally on board with that part. Shutamaru trying to stop his men and stuff. I guess they had to do what they had to do in the whole snatch thing
Yeah.
and blah blah blah. That was fine, but of course, to come back, they never did. And Shutamaru asked him the real question. He's like, "Why so long? Why 20 years? Like, you know, had you given me 10, I could have stopped everyone. 20 was too long. And then so he's kind of asking the real questions, and I'm kind of on board. Before we get into the response after that, I was kind of on board with that reasoning. It's like clearly there was a reason. Maybe like some people have theorized, they got to wait for Luffy, they got to wait for the Pirate King, something like that, like Lady Toki knew, or something like that. There is a, as Kinemon and Inarashi said, there is a good reason. We just probably don't know it. That like Lady Toki, why it had to be 20 years, but there was a lot of death and a lot of sacrifice as a result of that too. You know,
Yeah.
so I just, yeah, I felt for Shu tomorrow. I understood why he was very reluctant to just jump back into the fold.
In that scene where he's on the rock, I don't know if that's the shoreline or just a random rock that's, just like the one that Sanji ended up on with Zeph as a kid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They could have maybe just unloaded his ass onto that rock, and it's like, hey, it's like, if this goes wrong, you can raise another army, you know.
Could have. I mean, it's quite difficult, but I just was really with Shutemaru's reasoning. Now we understand why he's been pissed, and I don't disagree with
Yeah.
why he would be pissed. He had to watch, and by the looks of it, it was hundreds of men, of his men. Remember that he was left alone. Him and the other, a couple more of the 9 Red Chiefs, they were left alone to basically pick up the pieces while Wano was under Kaido's rule. trying their best, and it's like, you can only ask for so much, sort of idea. So, but I found it very weird after this, and I want your opinion on this, Keisha. I found it very weird that after he's like, "Why so long? Why 20 years?" And then Inarashi Kinemon basically just say there had to be a reason. Shutamaru basically says, "Yeah, I have no intention of doubting Odin anymore. Oi, men, 8 days, we're going." And I'm like, wait, what? Shutamaru literally brought Kinemon and Inarashi there to show them, to prove his point. They've been trying to convince Shutamaru, and Shutamaru's been like, "Get away from me." He says, "You want to know what 20 years was? You come with me," brings them here and goes, "This is why I am not doing this." And then he turns around and joins them. It felt very rushed. It felt very odd. And I waited for a few more translations just to see, but I don't get the indication of why Shutamaru just randomly changed his mind. It felt very undeserved. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, rereading it now, like, with there must have been a reason, and then Shutamaru's reply of, "I have no intention of doubting the Lord's words," so maybe it was Odin's idea for Toki to send them back, or to send them into the future.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not even sure if that's just a big assumption, just rereading this to try and make any level of sense, because why would he even say that? Unless there's a line here that's not being shown to us so that it can then be revealed later. Maybe later down the line we'll find out more to this conversation.
Possible, yeah. I think it needs a little more context. I just wanted to dive in, though. Once again, the pacing, like a lot of people have been complaining about Wano being oversaturated. They're skipping fights. There's a lot of jumping around. So maybe Oda kind of said, "Yeah, okay, well, Shutamaru's going to join in the end anyway, so yeah, he joins." Just to try to move things along. But I did like that Shutamaru, and we've seen that Shutamaru, I believe, is probably one of the strongest samurai we've seen thus far, because he did like speed blitz Jack and was like, "Get out of my kitchen, boy," sort of idea, to a Calamity, third strongest on Kaido's crew as far as we know.
As far as we know, Jack may not be all that, but still, impressive feat nonetheless. No one else was doing it.
Exactly, and he even says, like, you, Kinemon, you're the same, right? But now we're 20 years older and 20 years stronger.
That
and then
was funny with him
and
Rashi.
Yeah, I love that. Right in you? Yeah, you bet, buddy. He's like, "You old coot, shut the hell up," and stuff. But I really I liked it. I thought it was a good moment between them, because it's showing the camaraderie between the Nine Red Chiefs is still there.
Yeah.
So, anyway, there's two, I guess, last parts of the chapter. Once again, Keishan's right. This chapter moves further along. We get a lot more, here's what's happening, here's what's happening, here's what's happening. So it's a much more exciting, full-packed chapter than some of the previous ones that have only focused on one thing. What did you think of the Zoro stuff?
I mean, he's obviously not at full power, though he doesn't seem to be affected by that wound that he got from Killer.
Yeah, not anymore.
And kind of while people have been hyping up, it's like, yeah, he's taking these guys out left and right. It's like, sure, they're part of the Onibawan, if I'm saying the name right.
Yeah.
But, like, we don't even know if these are, like, the big ones that we've been seeing a lot since that group was introduced. These could just be similar-looking characters that are just part of a larger portion of the group, and those were, like, the stronger members. Because you know how it always goes. Like, these groups are usually... Because it's never been mentioned that it's like, oh, these are the 10 ninja of the Onibawan. It's like,
I would say he hasn't taken out any actual lieutenants, if you want to use that term, of the Oniwaban group or anything like that. But I would say he's taken out, like, I would say these guys aren't suckers. Once again, we're in Wano. We're also in the New World. Like, what is considered fodder now are strong characters. The fact that Zoro is, as we see the bodies piling up around this little temple, and even he's like sweating a little bit because he can't let his guard down with so many opponents, even if they're fodder level. Fodder level in Wano is destroying the East Blue level, sort of idea. At least the way that I've taken the gradual increase in power throughout One Piece. So, I mean, I don't think it was anybody we saw. No, like named. I don't think he took any of them out.
Well,
But
he might have taken out one because in that first,
oh
like
yeah,
the guy that has like the cloud looking thing, I forget what it's supposed to be called, but like Luffy has one when he's in Gear Fourth. So like he's probably the strongest person that Zoro defeated.
And remember, he's only using 2 sword style too.
Yeah.
And I think that is actually one of the name guys because it says Curcio and that face looks familiar. Not sure.
Yeah,
but
he was one of the two that was riding on like a catfish.
so that might be Raijin or Fujin or somebody like that. Anyways, yeah. So then we get the whole, Hiyori's still with him and blah blah blah, and like somewhere I can hide. My friends are with Toko. It's fine. He needs to go back to the Bandit Bridge. He needs his 3 swords, and of course no other sword will do. He needs Shusui back, right? And he's like, I won't forgive Orochi. He's like, I tried when we were there. I'm gonna get that guy. Like I'm gonna kill him. And then Hiyori basically says, let me kill Orochi myself. And we don't see Zoro's response, but I don't know where that's going to lead. I feel like that conversation could have kept going, but of course we're at the end of the chapter. But
it's very possible that that's what she's been trying to do for the last
could be
20 years. Like, that's probably why she went into the line of work she did. Eventually to become the best in her trade, and then be summoned to the side of the Shogun, and then after a disgusting image ahead, a night of passion with the Orochi, it's like she wakes up in the middle of the night and then slits his throat.
it could have all been building up to that. It's very possible.
And that's why she's so adamant to be like, let me be the one to kill him. It's like, as long as you get me there, I know he's not the strongest person, even though, contrary to the what's the word I'm looking for? Crap, I can't ever think. Anyway, it's like he does have a presumably powerful devil fruit if he knows how to use it. Because, with all the mystical models, they usually have like a power, that's not just animal transformation.
Yeah, they actually get a multitude of abilities rather than just a simple. I'm a bird.
Who's to say what it is? Because I mean, it could be that he could regrow his head like a Hydra, or
the Yamato no Orochi in mythology had the Kusanagi blade embedded into him, and it took the 3 regalia of Japan to defeat him. So I'm curious as to how far Oda is going to take the myth and how much reference he's going to use to try to go, for those of you who already know about his story, you're gonna like this, So how he'll work it in will probably be different, but it'll be pretty cool. That being said, what did you think? What do you think of the last page?
Oh, Law's smile was just pure joy for any fan of Law, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, don't know if there's going to be a full torture scene, but there's going to be some interrogation. And
well, we see he's almost been tortured for... Well, not even tortured. He was probably just beat up a little bit because... Once again, and a lot of people are going to say the thing now where you put the W, so they're going to say Walkins, right? And I'm like, okay, Walkins, yeah. You mean the guy who always uses like extortion, hostages, and stuff? Like, people want it to so good, like they're always giving him the W. I'm like, he didn't beat Law. He didn't beat Zoro. He hasn't actually beat anybody. I've never actually seen Hawkins straight up win a fight ever. There's extenuating circumstances. There's certain situations. There's hostages, blackmail. Like, Law did not lose that fight. Law chose to get arrested because he's got Beppo and his crew. So he can't fight Hawkins. That's why Hawkins is untouched, and Law's sitting there in the jail cell smirking his ass off because he's probably got a plan. But I'm trying to. I was debating with someone on my One Piece review about Hawkins standing. I'm not trying to say Hawkins is weak, and I'm not trying to say Hawkins isn't smart. And using tactics, even underhanded, dirty tactics, is a part of winning the Game of Thrones, shall we say. But at the end of the day, once again, in a straight up fight, I'm never going to say that he's strong in that sense because he doesn't win straight up fights. You put him in a boxing in a cage match with Law. Law is kicking his ass. You put him in a cage match with Zoro. Zoro's kicking his ass. Like, these things are just, I don't understand how people think otherwise. It baffles me completely. Like, Hawkins has not shown me to do anything but use underhanded tactics to people that, like Zoro was trying to run away using one sword style, trying to save Tama. They were out racing the clock to get the little girl from poison death and stuff. And people are going to say, oh, well, I was like, yeah, Zoro being distracted and still one-shotting. For all we've seen, Hawkins' best move, one-shotting it with one sword style. But Hawkins won. Law against Hawkins. We saw like, oh, well, I have your crew, and ha ha ha, I have them hostage. Who knows what'll happen? And Law chose to get beat up and captured, but Hawkins won a fight. I'm totally baffled, Keishan. I really am. I don't understand. But we finally see a change in Hawkins' expression on this page, so that's...
Yeah, he's been pretty straight-faced in, like, all of his appearances, so him to look like this, I don't even know what that expression's supposed to be. Like, anger, annoyance?
He looks sadistic because he's, like, smirking, like, now I can't wait to get your plan out of you, you bad boy. And I'm like,
maybe he's going to turn Law into a pincushion. I mean, he's got nails. So
yeah, it's true. I mean, the final page just basically says this man's crew and the Straw Hats are connected. When the world be plotting in Wano, people are saying that X Drake has already turned.
Yeah, there is that line.
Yeah, but Law has that shit-eating grin. I put a reference in my One Piece review, and I think I'm okay to say it here. It was a Team 4-Star reference in Helsing Abridged. So guys, go check out Team 4-Star, blah, blah, blah. And basically one of the characters, of course, this is very R-rated, ladies and gentlemen, but he says to him, I'll tell you what you do. You go down to your local pharmacy, you ask for something called Viagra, and it'll help you go fuck yourself. And that's basically what Law's face reminded me of right away, is that's literally, he is going to go to Sosuke Aizen levels of trolling Hawkins. He's going to troll him. Like,
and it's
crazy.
Even better because Law's a doctor. He's prescribed that shit to you.
Exactly. Here you go. I got this little blue pill for you. Now trust me, I'm a doctor because it's going to help you go fuck yourself real quick. You know, like, I just really... I'm with Law. Law, I mean, once again, there was no fight. Law got beat up because he didn't fight back, captured hostages, blah, blah, blah. But you can tell by the look on his face he's got a plan.
Yeah.
So
he's always got a plan. He's the one that's had the plan that got them to this point in the series.
That's true. That's true. Like, people say that Hawkins is one of the smartest supernovas, but Law is the smartest of the supernovas.
I'm the only one with a doctorate, you sons of bitches.
Exactly. He's the only doctor, so there you go. There you go. Out of the supernovas, out of the worst generation, Law's got to be the smartest. By IQ level alone, I would give it to Law. But, yeah, I mean, I don't really have much more to say. Any final thoughts on 950?
I look forward to it, like I do with all the other chapters. It should be good. This one was better than some of the other chapters in terms of, like, story progression and everything, so always a plus. But I think that's about it for that one. Shall we tackle My Hero next.
Sure, sure. You probably have more to say about My Hero than I do, so um, I can just quickly say that I thought the continuation was good. Like the backstory, once again, this has been something that
Mm-hmm.
has pushed My Hero Academia well beyond what the Deku Bakugo follow along, and I've really been enjoying the following of the villains. Um, it was creepy. It was realistic. I felt for it. I liked the whole, if at that time just one person had helped him,
Yeah.
things might have been totally different. Even at that junction, with him already murdering his family, he still was redeemable by that point. And then, of course, who extends the hand?
Yeah.
So, um, and then going through the whole teaching method and stuff. Like as I said, I won't go too in depth with it, but teaching him to wear the hands and the meeting with the doctor and the level of destruction and just it just giving him his new name,
Yeah.
explaining
Which,
like
hey, we now know what to call uh, All for One now. Shigaraki.
yes, Shigaraki. It's actually All for One's last name, so that's very interesting.
We can finally
Uh,
call him something that's not quite as confusing. Will. Um,
internet
okay,
crapped out on you.
I think it's working. I think if you catch it before things like reset themselves, it
Oh well,
works.
it says it's live still,
Okay.
so it went offline. But if you hit live, it comes
Yeah,
back. So
let me refresh and we'll see what it's saying. Okay, it still seems to be good. Good, good.
yep,
Okay,
yep.
we got further than I thought we would before I had an issue. Yay.
There we go. But you were saying My
But
Hero
but
Academia.
yeah, the like to get to see this, backstory fully fleshed out. We've seen the little fragmented memories, and this chapter really showed a part that was not really that alluded to except towards the end. And the rest of it was just kind of stuff that we had already, well, okay, this chapter we had a few allusions to. Um, but like how he dealt with the street punks and everything, didn't know anything about that. But
Oh, no.
um, but yeah, and then the name, the just him wearing the hands for the first time, which is a little weird looking because he's so small at that point in time. You know, it was.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to find the picture again because it just like they're so big on him. But you know,
Yep.
the but yeah, if one person had helped him, maybe the whole series as him of as the villain would have excuse me, would have been completely averted, like you said. So, eh, it's just kind of interesting how all of this turned out.
It is. It is. And I love the fact that he destroys the hand at the end of the chapter. That
Yeah.
seemed like a big moment to round out. I think that signified the end of the backstory for us.
Yeah, I don't think there's much more that could have been covered. And I was
Oh
saying
no.
it like a week ago when this before this one dropped that I was like, okay, we'll probably get at least one more, leading into the meeting of Shigaraki. you know.
Right.
So, and
Mm.
got that. So, I mean, it was I guess an obvious conclusion, but it's good to for this to finally be over so we can get back into the present and, you know, get more real story progression, let's say. Getting that
Yeah,
back
exactly.
because Gigantomachi is coming in and he's fucking huge.
Yep, he is big. That's a big boy.
It's weird that all of a sudden that he's that big now because like they've been fighting him for a month and they've never once mentioned it's like he's a big motherfucker who apparently shrunk when he fell asleep. So I don't get it. but
Me neither.
And for when I first read the chapter and everything, I remember when we got to the point where Mr. Compression is like yelling to Dobby, and we see his, his mask has been broken and stuff. I thought we had never seen his face before, but I vaguely remembered later on that we had. He just wears a mask underneath, which is probably a smart thing to do. But when I looked at it the first time, I thought, oh, he has a weird face underneath. But no, he doesn't. It's just a ski mask as far as I know. But yeah. And the ice guy may be like doing something at some point. I don't know. Because like he just calls for Redestro after, they're talking about Gigantomachia is like, or Machia. I always Machia, but is like heading for Redestro, and the ice guy whose real name I can never say right. It's like Apocalypse mixed with whatever. It's like he's a very hard line follower, so I don't think he's unless Dobby did something to him to keep him there any longer, he's going to do something, and he'll probably end up dying.
Yeah, agreed.
So, but yeah, that whole scene with the hand, and it's just like shattering it, basically. I don't even think he decayed it, it looked like. He just
broke it.
So, but you do see, if you look closely, you do see the decay lines on them. But it's just, it doesn't look like the decay we're accustomed to. Maybe it's because he's awoken all of his latent power.
Maybe so. Like it's definitely very impactful way of showcasing it. Yes.
And yeah, I don't. Like I said, we'll be getting into like present day, back into the flow with Redestro and all of them probably next week. I don't think there's going to be another flashback. If there is, I'll be surprised. But other than that, chapter was good. I'm thinking Redestro has gone like close to 100% at this point. Because when he was at 80%, like part of his face was still exposed. It ain't no more. So, but I mean, given what Skeptic has been updating him, remotely, it's like, boss, it's getting bad. The enemies have someone coming right for you, and he's a big fucker busting through all our defenses. I'm sure that would raise his stress level just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
So I'd say possibly by the next chapter, he may already be at 100% if he's not by the end of this chapter, of course. So, but yeah, there's not much more I can add. Anything you would like to add before we move on?
No, I think I covered it all. As I said, there was it was a really interesting backstory, and I thought some of the art was creepy and it was really well done, and I really liked that if at that time just one person had given me a hand.
Those sunken eyes when he was looking for help.
Oh, that was creepy. That was so creepy.
I can see why the old lady didn't help him.
Yeah, me too, but you would think even you'd just be like, okay, well, I'll call someone. Like, nobody even, they all just turned away, and nobody, just rang the phone and said, cops or heroes, please, Yeah. But it just shows an ugly part of society and stuff, and as I said, we got some more backstory and stuff.
And people do that in real life, where,
absolutely.
They just don't want to get involved with something. Like, you hear about, someone's getting beat up over there. Well, it's not my problem. I don't want to get involved. Even though while you might be killed or harmed yourself, you could be saving someone else. But
absolutely.
But people don't want to be bothered, and like he said in the not the epilogue, but the narration, it was like there was an irony to it, because with the population, 80% of them being, superpowered, maybe not all superheroes. But it's and there was no one to help. So
yeah, Yeah, and it's as I said, it's almost doubly at fault for that reason alone because this is a world that has cops,
Yeah,
but also and firefighters and all that stuff,
yeah,
but it also has heroes.
yeah.
There's a whole nother extra force that this world reality does not have, and yet still this happens. That's just
Yeah.
it's so. It is definitely a very dark backstory, and I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, this arc overall has been really good, and I think it was a couple chapters ago it said like it was reaching its finale or its peak or whatever. So hell, it might be over in the next 2, 3 chapters. If not,
Absolutely, it
if
could.
not
It
the
could be.
very next chapter, who knows? And we know that they lose.
Yeah,
So that's kind of the sad thing, because we've gotten to know these characters a lot more. And while a lot of people still like the villains before this arc, but this arc really nailed it home, even to, like me, I didn't really care too much about some of them. But, like, Twice, for instance, you really grow to love the guy.
I
Toga,
always liked Twice. I always really liked him. I just thought he was quirky, pun intended.
yeah, I was about
Um,
to say.
I always thought he was quite a quirky character, and I liked him for that. And then when I knew his backstory, like then he became more well rounded, and that just made me like him more. But I still don't really like what's her name,
Toga.
uh, Toga. Yeah, no,
I actually forgot her name during my reaction. I was like,
oh,
what the hell is her name? I swear, me and names.
yeah. So, anyways, yeah, no, it was a good chapter 237, 238 is as you said going to jump back to the present. So we'll see what happens.
But, okay, I know you cover One Punch. Well, you don't cover it, but you at least read it. Or at least you did cover it for 113 with your
Yes, I
live
did.
reaction. Go check that out, guys. It was an interesting stream. I was there for a little bit of it anyway.
Yeah, yeah, you are.
What did you think of that chapter? I didn't see the full reaction, so I don't know all of
Well,
your
yeah,
thoughts.
because unfortunately, just so you guys are clear, it was a live stream that turned into a live reaction, and it kind of got sidetracked for a while, and then I continued. But um, it was it was all right. Art was good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think anything really. Homeless Emperor disappoints me now.
Oh, really?
Like I liked him before. I liked him. I shouldn't say I dislike him now, but I liked him better before I knew his backstory.
it was not the most flattering backstory, I will admit.
I mean, in this day, in this world, this dude in a tracksuit and all this stupid shit that led him up to that, like Phoenix Man's story was better for God's sakes, and that was ridiculous. Um, And this dude being an idiot his whole life, pretty much, and being used and just not realizing, like, hey, I can just quit my job and go get a new one and stuff like that. He ends up this homeless guy or whatever. And then the worst part is he meets a wire meshed Polygon from Super Smash Brothers who tells him, oh, yeah, hey, you, the light, God, what's going on? And Homeless Emperor just all of a sudden does a 180 and believes that he knows the entirety of what just happened when there's no way. How would you ever assume any of what, like he makes some vast jumps to conclusions about what's actually going on. So I think he's actually mentally unstable from the get-go. I don't think he was all there before. I think it's this light, and the worst part is he goes, God gave me this light, right? I forget the actual line because I don't have it pulled up here, but he
Uh,
says something along the lines of to eradicate all humans or get rid of them all, like cleanse the earth. He says something along those lines.
he does talk about like Mother Earth and everything, like help bestow this power, which actually makes a lot of sense because I was seeing other people talk about this since we first saw what his powers were a couple
Mm-hmm.
chapters
Mm-hmm.
ago. They're the same as Vaccine Man, the first villain monster we saw in the series. What did he have? Energy balls. And he
Yeah.
was the same way about Mother Earth. It's like, I have come to cleanse humanity who was, just poisoned and harmed Mother Earth. So he's like Vaccine Man version 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
Just with backstory.
Right, right. So I mean, the dude, like, he, I don't know. He's God appeared before him. Foolish grant powers. Um, he knows the like. Oh, I found it because I pulled the chapter up. He says, in other words, I possess divine power bestowed on him by God. Now, bestowed on him by God. After seeing the whole Monster Association and the Hero Association, he still believes that this was God.
Yeah, it could have just been
Like,
some random ass monster that's like, huh,
yeah,
I stuck my dick in an outlet and gained the ability to give other people powers.
yeah.
That could.
Like there's, like I don't I. Something like I liked Homeless Emperor way before this because then he says, I'm chosen, I know the answer. Foolish humans are a harmful existence of this planet, and the time has come for me to destroy all of its existence and civilization. And I'm like, and what have you done? Because last time I checked, Homeless Emperor hasn't actually killed a single human being in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So his whole thing is that he was given this power to cleanse Mother Earth
And
of
didn't even
humans.
do what he supposedly was given it for.
So then he goes and joins a monster association and waits. So, like, that's the problem when I was reading this. I was like, but then why haven't you attacked a bunch of major cities yet? Why don't we know about you before this? Why, like none of this makes any sense. His belief in God, you might be able to stretch, like believing that was God, but this you can't stretch. He basically says, my goal is to eradicate all humans. That's why I have this power, and he has not done it. He didn't get this power yesterday. So, what's he been doing? Still being a homeless idiot, sitting on his ass, not actually doing anything productive. So, even when given superpowers and becoming a monster, he's bad at doing stuff. Like, it just really took a toll on the character for me. Don't get me wrong, the art, the power, the look, it's all there for me. But his whole goal, he doesn't even follow what he says. He's not practicing what he preaches. It's just, I don't know. What did you think?
I didn't really look at it that way, but you know, it sometimes takes time to absorb and whatnot, and a lot of what you said does make sense looking back. He hasn't done anything with it. I mean, he could have easily have become a hero if he really wanted to, and then using his powers exterminate evil. That would have helped, you know, because I mean, most monsters, a lot of them were former humans. So then there goes the whole human issue he preaches about. It's like, you're literally becoming monsters. I'm going to kill you, you know? But he doesn't do that. He sits on his butt, like you said, and does nothing with anything that he's been given with that explicit purpose, apparently.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
so yeah, he's kind of just a waste in certain regards. The design and the powers, all cool, but motivations and everything, they're not so great. I hope better for him, but what you've said has convinced me that his narrative in the story is kind of bunk.
Yeah, I mean, if he was a newly formed monster, like literally this week,
Yeah.
that'd be fine. But I think we can all agree that Homeless Emperor has been Homeless Emperor for more than a few days.
Yeah.
So he just, I don't know. It broke the illusion of hype for the character for me, where I'm not on the black sperm hype train that everybody else is. Homeless Emperor was like like, okay, I'm good with him, and then that got ruined, sort of.
You're not in the
So
executive car, are you? On the
no,
train. The VIP.
no.
Well, I can't even call it a VIP. That's why I went with executive.
Yeah, there you go.
But
I also laugh at the next part with a My Mask talking trash the whole time. He can beat Orochi. He's an all-rounder. He fears nothing. He can beat any opponent, and literally 5 pages later, he's like, "No, no, I can't. This is unwinnable. This is the worst. This is impossible." I'm like, God, you're a dick. Like, to practice what you once again. What is it with these characters not practicing what they preach? Don't tell me something and then go back on it 2 pages later. People have a problem with Escanor. Like, Jesus, at least the man practices what he preaches. Because we get fear ugly in this chapter, and I know that's from something. That's from like a Goosebumps novel or something. That face, I know it is.
Oh, it is.
It's something like that. I forget. It's one of the masks in the Haunted Mask one. It's in it's in something like a Scholastic, like one of those B movies, like straight to TV, like straight to DVD or VHS back when I was a kid. That wasn't really very popular. Or like a Jason Voorhees from number 5 or something, what his face looked like. It's very, very reminiscent of something like that. Almost just the shape, the missing teeth, all that. I'm not sure. I said it in my live reaction. I was like, I know that face. But that being said, what do you think? Because I'm just a little disillusioned by the whole My Mask. I know potentially he's supposed to do the whole, like, oh, he can't fight ugly things sort of trope or something.
Actually, I find that interesting because I started to come to the conclusion during my reaction, but more so after the fact, of a lot of these executive fights has like pitted them against either their polar opposite or someone that is a bit of an aversion to them in some way. Because you've got handsome and ugly right now. You've got like with Nian and Puri Puri, you have the one who wants isolation versus the one who wants love. And there, or also another kind of matchup idea is where they're very similar to each other. Like Saitama and Orochi. They're like the ultimate beings kind of deal. So yeah. I keep seeing this with each one of them, and plus, the Atomic versus Black Sperm, it's up against someone he's going to have a hard time against. But, yeah, I just keep seeing this, and I'm like, has this been the whole, like, arc? And I just didn't realize it until now.
It has been, and it's supposed to make for much more interesting fights. I guess the art is good, the fight matchups are cool. I'm excited to see Zombie Man versus Homeless, and I'm excited to see what Fear Ugly is capable of and stuff, right? It's just that the dialogue kind of, like, watered it down for me a bit, the hype that's supposed to be built. Because, as I said, I poked some holes in Homeless's whole game and the whole My Mask. A lot of people, like, I never really had a big problem with a My Mask, but him being all, like, talking like he's Escanor and then backing down the moment he actually has to fight something worthwhile, just kind of like, I was like, oh, come on, man.
But hey, he did get rid of the stockpile of monster cells for a time.
Exactly, and I didn't mind all that. And as I said, when the My Mask showed up and people are all like, oh, he's trash, he's just a dick, he's an ass and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but he's not a bad character or anything.
He's our dick and ass.
Yeah, there you go. So basically, I just never really had much of a problem with him. He wasn't one of my favorite characters, but his whole, like, if he hadn't rambled on to that creature's head about, like, I could take Orochi on, sort of fucking, like, Escanor level cocky, and then the moment he shows up to an executive, he's just like, can't win. Before even actually throwing a punch, he can't win. I'm like that just kind of ticked me off. It just rubbed me the wrong way, shall we say.
Yeah.
But overall, once again, the chapter itself, other than these little poked holes, and these are personal opinions, of course, guys. So, but I didn't think it was a bad chapter. I'm excited to see how the fights go. So
It,
yeah,
it was definitely a setup chapter, if nothing else.
yeah, 100%.
So, and plus a little plot setup because now that there's presumably going to be, if Orochi is truly dead, I'm still in the opinion that he might come back in some form. I
I don't
took
think he's dead, so I just don't think he's dead because that was too easy.
yeah.
If he is, then that just once again, which Grim hates when I say this, but I'm like, that once again proves that Saitama is a parody character, and this whole thing is basically watching the side characters do stuff. Because the god of the universe is too lazy. You know, like, like he hates when I call Saitama a parody. He hates it.
And it could be because he's forgotten the roots of the series. I don't know.
So, well, because we do follow, like, the series itself isn't a parody. We have characters with actual powers and blah blah blah, right? So,
It's
and
just
we
he's dropped
generally,
down right in the middle of it.
yeah, yeah, and we follow, and we've been following an actual story with those characters for a long time. We're not following Saitama, the One Punch Man. We're not following the title character.
Though he did appear in
So
the chapter.
he did appear in the chapter, and he has been appearing lately. But look, to know what he does when he does appear, he just,
Yeah.
So. But anyways, that's more of a debate about the entirety of the series. But
Yeah, and
that being
I've got a theory to the whole Orochi deal. I may have it out in a week or two. I don't know. Won't be too
so
long. I talked about it in the Discord, so you can dig for it if you want. If
yeah,
not,
yeah.
but other
Well
than
then,
that, it's just because I feel like there's more to Orochi and like his, you know, impact to the series because I don't think he's dead, but if he is, I have a way around how he can still play a big role.
well, there you go. So
Give
we're gonna have to everyone watch out for Keishan's video. Keep those
It'll
notification
probably be
bells
like three
on.
minutes long, but hey, whatever.
Hey, if it's a simple theory, and here's like, here, I got 3 facts of evidence, and here's my theory. Done.
Yep.
You don't need to make a long video to make your point.
But yeah, the chapter was overall serviceable. It for setup and everything, not too bad. It kind of ends abruptly, but they've kind of all been doing that for a bit now. So, but I guess that wraps that one up.
Yeah.
You got anything you've read this week?
Well, what about, did you read Kingdom?
Yes, I did.
Okay. We could jump, because I think Kingdom's the last one that we both read that was released this week. I believe, or I do. So, what did you think of the whole Roboku and Osen talk? That was
Well,
a thing.
it about went as planned.
Yep.
Like I don't think there was any way that he was going to sway Roboku. I mean, he's too steadfast for Zhao to really change, sides like that. Especially when he's surrounded, and if he turns traitor, his whole army will probably go for him. It's like, you traitorous bastard.
Yeah, exactly. And just, I thought the conversation, this proves something that a lot of people haven't thought about, and I love Roboku, because Roboku is a better, no, I don't want to say better, he's a good guy versus generally a bad guy. Roboku's not a bad guy. He's against us in the series. He's an antagonist, but he's not an evil man. Osen is teetering that chaotic neutral pretty good.
Yeah.
He's not. He's never been. He's cold, calculating, and as Roboku says, you're not really like. Sorry, you're not really fit to rule anybody. Like, you might win battles, but that's all you're good at.
Yeah.
So I'm like, damn, Roboku, saying it like it is. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Roboku and I like Osen. Or Osen or whatever, but that his back talk. He might as well have slapped Ocean in the face a couple dozen times.
Maybe slap him so hard his helmet spins around.
We finally get to see that ugly mug of his, which is definitely scarred, because that's just classic anime or manga.
Or it confirms that he bears no resemblance to his son, confirming that, yes, turns out he wasn't my son, which is why I hate his fucking guts.
There is that. There is that, of course. No, Kingdom was a good chapter, and I'm excited to see what's going on with Ausen or with Auhan or Ohan.
Oh yeah, because
they're at the end of the chapter. Yeah. So.
But
I mean, what do you think of that? Like him showing up.
Me and Richard both talked about this to decent length when it came to like how is this going to go, because Shin mentions in this second half after the summit, you could call it, where Naya's in the chat. Hey Naya, with your yar, or I don't know how.
Naya, you missed our shout out to your channel, by the way. We were talking about you when we did our One Piece segment. So there. So any new subscribers, they're from us. Just taking the credit.
Remember. But yeah, we talked about this at like, let me see if I can find the exact line of dialogue. It's when everything started changing off, and Shin's like, I'm feeling weak, but why? And he doesn't seem to connect it to his wound. So I initially thought, hey, maybe he was poisoned by somebody.
Could have been. Or how do they know it wasn't a poisoned weapon?
Well, that's what Richard was saying. It was like the Cho Gar. The names I'm bad with.
The really
doesn't
evil
seem
guy.
to be like that underhanded to use poisons. I mean, to be honest, you would think people would use poison weapons a lot more often in this series than they do.
Very true, very true.
But that's where I'm thinking is that maybe it was a slow acting poison, and that's why it's happening now opposed to days ago. Because how many days we're into this? Like 10, 12, 15, something like that. It's been 2 weeks or more for them. So he's not attributing it to that, or it's either the poison idea or maybe just fatigue mixed with the wound and everything is just finally wearing on him. I mean, they are human after all. And Shin, particularly, has been going at this very hard. I mean, he has to. He's the captain of 8,000 men. With Kyokai's group included. So, you gotta keep up the strong front for morale, if nothing else. But the whole deal with Ohan, I'm kind of still on the fence I doubt he could actually do anything against who they're planning on fighting against, whose name I suck at remembering. It's like Gyo-un or something like that. The one that, the two main generals that still lives, but he's got the injured hand, so maybe Ohan will have a slight advantage. I doubt it, because Ohan just almost came back from the grave in certain aspects. He was basically comatose there for a few chapters, and for him to come back and have to fight such a strong opponent, I don't know if he's capable of that. But so I was thinking, okay, maybe him and Shin switch off or do a stage team up. Shin goes in there first, whacks him around a bit, Ohan goes in there, or vice versa. Ohan goes in, fights. Shin goes in, weakens him further, and then Ohan maybe goes in with the killing blow to give Ohan a win. Because his weakened state, I don't see him being able to do it by himself, and Shin's really no better at this point. He's able to get around pretty good, but that weakening, the weakness he's feeling, the possible poison that's flowing through his veins, we all know. So yeah,
I'd really like to, as I said, I would hate for him to be poisoned and then have to fight someone and lose a fight, sort of idea. But I think your idea of a team up makes more sense, for them to come back and take down one of the bigger names, together, grudgingly working together again, sort of idea. I would enjoy that. I think that works. Honestly, as I said, outside of big speculation, I didn't think there was too much to go on. Just the conversation basically speaks for itself. The whole debate thing and how it broke down. It flowed well. It made sense. It was a good chapter.
Got to see some nice arrow shots with taking one guy's hand, but it's again showing that all of Kin's forces are weakening because Jin can't do a headshot anymore.
Yep. Which is really unfortunate, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to be detrimental in the end.
Yeah, because God knows how long this is going to go on for. Because, even if you took the head of all the commanders and everything of one side, it doesn't always mean that the men are still not going to try and fight back out of revenge of their fallen commander. So,
Exactly.
So this could go on even after that supposed win, can go on for days more until one side or both are completely dead and maybe one person is surviving, And to be like, yeah, we won, we lost everybody, but I made it home to tell you, and now I'm going to collapse dead.
Yeah. It's entirely possible. So, as I said, I thought it was a good chapter, but you thought it was a pretty good chapter too, Keishan? Yeah. So, I'm looking forward to this.
On a weekly basis has made me not as fatigued for some of the strategy talks and all that. So
yeah, I agree, because you're more invested. It's just like with One Piece, and stuff like that. Anything that has some heavy dialogue where you need to pay attention to a lot of lines and look in each little panel and stuff.
I'm forgetful.
Sometimes. Yeah, right. Exactly. So there's a lot you need to go through. But when it's a weekly thing and you're only reading 17, 18 pages, it
and we keep this all in one stream,
Yep, that's pretty good. Oh, it seems to be, it's bringing itself back, I think.
The timer started back.
Yeah, there we go. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. Yep. Thankfully, that ended at a good junction. We just finished doing all the. We finished Kingdom. What did we cover so far? As for those of you who don't know, who are going to watch this later or tuning in now, Keisha and I both read Kingdom, Seven Deadly Sins, One Piece, My Hero Academia, and did I miss one? One Punch Man. So we covered all of those series together. Now I guess we're going to move on to our individual series that we've read. And because we had to do 2 chapters of Seven Deadly Sins, and I had to fanboy for 25 minutes about Escanor, we'll try to cut this down and keep it a little briefer and shorter than previous podcasts, I think. So anyway, Kishan, do you want to start off with a series that you have read?
Okay, this will be really short because it's the Way of the House Husband. Mostly.
Oh yes.
It's just a very gaggy chapter because I always forget his name. I think it's Masu. He's kind of this guy that Tatsu is taking under his wing. And he even mentions do you really think you're, ready for the way of the house husband? kind of deal. So it's kind of funny. They do kind of this thing where, how there's dollar stores, like Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, all that kind of stuff, where the prices are really cheap and all that, and you can get a multitude of things. Tatsu kind of shows him the big three, but the way he describes it is like, now we're going today is a branch of Japan's most powerful, most feared group. They have over 20,000 members. It's like, it sounds like you're going to fucking war against somebody like this. Turns out it's just 20,000 stores, basically. So, and it's just like this trifecta of stores that all have these really low prices. Basically, like 100 yen, which would be about $1. So, and what they do is he would pull like an item off the rack, like a juicer, just the hand juicers. And it's like, okay, tell me, what is this, Masu? And it's like, and it's like, damn it, you're disrespecting the homemakers. And he'd slap him in the face, and he'd pull up something else, and we'd get these little, like, weird scenes of, like, mafioso, like, using the products and then not using them, and it was kind of weird, but whatever, it's funny.
Yeah.
Because that's what this whole series is. It's one giant joke, because you're combining, housework meets a former Yakuza, so the humor's usually always on point, and this chapter was no different. But yeah, it mostly just keeps going along the lines of, oh, what is this? What is this? And Masu isn't very good at figuring out what the stuff is. So and he gets the same item twice, and he still can't figure it out. It's a thing that you put in your washing machine to, like, as a dirt filter. He didn't know what it was the first time, and then the second time, he's like, I still don't know what this is. So, yeah, I forget what he thought it was. Let me see. He thought it was a mini butterfly net. He did get one thing right. Those things like you can slice an apple or whatever with, and it does it all in one go. But that was about it. There was a couple things I didn't even know what the hell they were. So, yeah. But that was basically the chapter. These chapters are real simple usually. They're just in good fun.
Sometimes I like some simplicity though. Once in a while, it's actually why I'm kind of upset that Shokeki no Soma is, for all intents and purposes, over, and we're not going to talk about. Well, we will talk about Lead Dessert when I get to it, but it's something where you can talk about it, but it's basically like it's very right in front of you. Here's what happened, and there's not all the time. Sometimes I just want some good old, just easy fun, an easy read.
But that you can go.
Oh, all right. So. Okay, I actually have a couple more to cover than I thought, but they'll as I said, they'll be somewhat quick. More so than last week, because 2 monthly series that I followed came out. One of them being, of course, Akatsuki no Yona 178, ladies and gentlemen. Great series. So if you guys may or may not remember, but my reviews are there, that Yona, the princess, of course, was asked to join forces with the conspirator of her father's murder. They know this. He admits this. They all know it. Yet he asked her to join forces because now she's amassed a powerful group of companions, and they are a threat. And he has tried to kill her multiple times. So this is a big like. There's no way she'd accept this deal. So they have the conversation about it. All the companions basically have these dark look in their eyes, and they're just like, "Listen, we worked with you to get our companions back because the dragons were split up. The companions are called the dragons, and they were split up, and they were taken by the enemy for reasons and stuff. But in the end of the day, they worked together because their goals aligned. But now that they're all back together and everything's fine, they're like, we are not your allies. We are not your friends." He tries to manipulate her by saying, you can't protect now that you're well known, because now they've put themselves in the spotlight. They're no longer doing just helping out small villages here and there as just these wandering bandits anymore. They have actually fought in wars, and their names and the legend of the red hair being the founder of the kingdom in the first place, of King Hiryu and stuff. And she has the same red hair, and the 4 dragons with the powers of the dragons have been shown on the battlefield and stuff. And the morale boost and the amount of religious talks and stuff. It's just, they haven't kept a good lid on it. And so now he basically plays and says, this is no longer just about you, from whether inside or outside this country. Groups will either target the dragons and you, either for their own gains, for good reasons, bad reasons, for all reasons. But you guys have exposed yourself at this point. You haven't kept quiet. You've been involved in everything. Everybody knows you're alive. You know, there's just too much going on. So it's a bit of a big thing. Of course, all the dragons and stuff and Hawk and everybody around is basically saying, we can protect ourselves. We don't need you. Princess, don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. But we clearly see here in a few panels that the princess is very much affected by this. And it does make sense, because time after time, she either herself, Yon, or a couple of the dragons have been kidnapped because of her and her decisions, and her boldness to try to protect the small villages, to protect the working class, to save the poor. You know, with her Robin Hood antics, she has put her friends in danger multiple times, and these words ring true, and they've affected her. So they question him about a few of the things he's done in the past, and the advisor admits it and stuff. And then Hawk steps up and says, basically, I have a question. Do you remember the night King Il was assassinated? And he says, how could I forget? It was our historic night of our victory. And Hawk, of course, remember, he swore loyalty to this king. So he is just, you know, his loyalty is, of course, first to the princess. But the dead king was the one that he looked up to. He said, I would not have swung my blade for someone who I thought was a coward or not deserving. And they murdered this very gentle king. So he grabs his glaive and he's going to cut his damn head off. And of course, Yona stops him and everybody stops him and stuff. And it's like, but the evil look, like, this is where the art style goes from shoujo into a bit of shonen-esque. You can feel the, like, it's nowhere near Murata or Bocce or somebody's art style, but the art style is clean. It lends itself to shonen at times, and it's very good. Suffice to say, he does have to drop his weapon, sort of idea. It's just not, you know. So, and he speaks a very real truth that had all the things that have been happening for the last almost 200 chapters, had all these events and wars and kidnappings and forts and stuff. Had this all happened under the previous king's rule, this kingdom would have fallen. These are facts, and they cannot be denied. And they're a little shaken up by this because they know these words to be true. So it's one of those double-edged swords. You murdered a relatively, we don't know the whole story, but you murdered a gentle, innocent king. You pulled a coup to take control of the throne, but it, as far as the status of the kingdom and the country goes, it was probably for the best in the long run, and they can't deny that. And that's where that's got them in this gray area. So I like that. I like that it's not so black and white. We know this dude is evil, but his reasonings for being evil are sound for the good of the people. So it's something, it's definitely a gray area. So there's a conversation that goes on that doesn't really matter too much. He's trying to manipulate the general of the Sky Tribe, who would have originally been the bodyguard of the princess, but it was assigned, of course, to Lord Hawk, because Hawk's the best. And there's just, you know, he's fueling the grudges there between them. And the last scene basically jumps over that they've all gone their separate ways. The 4 dragons, everyone is talking about, you know, about this and basically saying, we don't need this help and stuff. Hawk has stayed outside the tent guarding it, and he's just looking angry as all hell. The other dragons said they'll go out and guard with him and shouldn't be blah, blah, blah. And that's when the last, one of the only other dragons, the dragon that is over 2,000 years old, who is actually he's the original dragon because he cannot die. Saitama could one-punch this guy. He would just reform. He would just come back. It's just, the yellow dragon cannot die. It's just the rule in the universe. So he's lived a very, very long time. And he was the original of these four dragons. The dragons constantly reincarnate until they waited for Yona to be born, pretty much, for the reincarnation of... There's a lot of reincarnation in this series. And they're having this big discussion about whether to accept the deal. And they talk about it, and he says, well, basically, yeah, we've ended up friends to the masses. So he's probably thinking using us as an alliance is the best way to go. Elsewise, he's got to eliminate us, because right now Yona is looked on as something above the king, as the second coming of their founder, of a dragon god. And that's not good for their political stance. So if they don't work together with them, it's going to be one of those, you're not in the gray, you're against us, and they'll start sending assassins and stuff after them and trying to press where it hurts, you know. So it's a very sticky situation. And this dragon also says, like, the dragons are always used. It doesn't matter what time or place. For 2,000 years, the dragons and their powers have always been sought after, misused, and abused. It's nothing new to us. But that's... He basically asks her, will you jump? Basically, will you grovel now at your father's murderer's feet, who is soon won, which of course is a huge thing. But it's a whole big thing. The chapter basically, you know, poses the question, like, what are you going to do? And we don't see the rest of the conversation, but the end of the chapter, Yona goes out, talks to Hawk, and Hawk's just like, rest while you can, it's fine. We'll jump back into the woods, as we talked about before. You know, we can just leave this place. We'll move on to the Earth Tribe, you know, into the mountains and into the forests, you know. We don't need to worry about this deal, it's fine. And that's when a dead-eyed Yona basically just listens and finally says, I'm going to accept the advisor's offer. And Hawk's just like, what? And Yona tries to explain and says, you know, it's a safer option as long as we stay quiet. It doesn't matter, you know, sort of idea. We can keep everybody safe, and we are working towards the same goals. This will be a more effective approach. And Hawk is, I mean, remember, Hawk is not on board. Hawk has not been able to let go of his bloodlust. Yeah.
I'm starting it back up. Okay, I think we're back.
Yeah, are we?
Okay. This is ridiculous. But at least I'm able to catch it before it, you know.
I see it being live, but I can't hear Keishan, so I don't know if anybody out there can hear me, or if anybody can hear Keishan. We have apparently 3 watching. For some reason I can't hear Keishan. I'll try disconnecting and reconnecting.
Hello?
There we go. I got Keishan back. There's a Keishan.
I could hear myself on the thing.
Oh, okay. So that was probably just my end or something like that. It does show that we're live again. So
okay, and we got 2 people watching. It looks like.
So I'll speed this up just so we can get through. Suffice it to say, Hawk is of course not cool with this. He wants to kill everybody, and he just starts yelling, saying, no matter what, I won't forgive anybody. Let's run away. No matter what danger we come into, I'll protect. And he even says all the dragons and stuff, because remember, he's the strongest warrior of the kingdom. And that's his name, you know, the Thunder Beast. And he just says, I'll protect you and Yon and the 4 dragons and everybody. I'll die doing it. I will protect everyone. You know, and it's just, so she hugs him, and she just thinks about all the peaceful camping days, about their morning routine. And she thinks that those days are now over as of right now. We see the 4 dragons. They clearly heard Hawk yelling and what he was saying, and they don't look too pleased with the situation either. So they're all going to follow Yona's decision in the end, but I think this is going to be a huge amount of tension on Hawk and Yona's relationship, and this might be the thing that breaks the camel's back, so to speak. So big stuff happening in Akatsuki no Yona. The tension is alive. The tension is there. 178 gave us some. 176 to 77 was about the romance. This is about the politics.
Always fun.
Yeah. So either way, guys, if you haven't seen it, Yona of the Dawn, it's a great series. It is available in North America. I own a few volumes of it. It's called Akatsuki no Yona in Japanese. It does have an anime with the voice of Vegeta voicing Hawk. So, of course, Hawk is a badass.
Oh, that sounds
And
awesome.
it is actually. The voice acting crew is very good. The animation is okay. And it's unfortunate that it wasn't more popular because we had a 25 episode season and it doesn't look like it got picked up again. So unfortunately, that's where it's going to end. But it follows the manga very well. So guys, if you don't mind a little bit of shojo, sort of like Inuyasha, mixing a couple of elements of shojo-ish, seinen, and shonen, kind of a mix mash, not really one demographic or another. The classic elements. Once again, it's just a demographic, but it's really good. I enjoy it. So great chapter. Keishan, why don't you bring up one that you read?
All right, we'll do The Promised Neverland next. 144. I keep forgetting to tell the damn chapter numbers, but whatever. Mostly this is picking up where it left off immediately. You've got the trap is being, or will be sprung in this one, where you had Jin and Hayato was in on it to capture Musica and Sunjun. More Musica than anything. Well, I say capture. It's more along the lines of killing in some contexts, but I mean capturing at least at a minimum. Well, Sunjun not really having it. He shows off his prowess. He sneaks up behind Jin real quick, and then he actually knocks out the Atom Squad, as I call them. They're these big hulking dudes. And he doesn't actually kill them, which I was a little surprised. I was like, it could be because they've become friends with, Emma's group and all that. And it's like, you were traveling with these guys. We don't fully know what's going on kind of deal. So it's like, I'm not going to kill them just yet until, force is required.
Right.
But, let's see. Trying to refresh myself real quick. But yeah, we really learn Norman's main intention. Like, the killing music a bit was one thing, but his true intention is revealed at the end. But before that, what kind of stops this conflict from going any further, where Sunjun doesn't actually have to really fight, to kill, is because all of the Atom Squad start experiencing headaches. They've all been experimented on by the demons, so it's a side effect. Presumably it's all linked to the original Lambda farm where they started this, and then they made more of them over time and, improved their procedures. And we've only seen the older ones. This was brought to my attention by Richard, because I was like, holy crap, they experienced this too? Or I didn't realize that this was a thing they would happen to them, but it did. They take medicine periodically to keep it stabilized, and they had it was too early, so maybe their conditions is progressing. I'm not sure. Musica actually goes to save them, showing that she doesn't hold that much ill will. She's always been the healer. She's been doing it for over 7 centuries at this point, helping the downtrodden and those in need. So, makes sense.
Right, yeah, of course. As a healer, it's kind of like a doctor, like the Hippocratic Oath and all that,
Yep. But
that's good that she gets that character, little bit that character form, just that little bit of showcasing, because it would be very easy to write her blander than that, I feel. And this is coming from someone who hasn't kept up with the manga, but from what you've told me, this seems like better character development for her to make that choice. Yeah.
Well, anyway, Gelda, after the situation has been kind of dealt with, she informs Musica that Norman is heading to the capital. And the realization is all starting to come to her. She's realizing what Norman's really going after. his plans when he went to the capital was to kill the royals and the nobles, because they're the ones keeping this whole style of life and order that the demons have had for the last 1,000 years in place, keeping them in power and whatnot. You know how it goes. The
Yes,
powerful
exactly.
always like to keep their power, and they like to
Of
keep
course.
so. Um, but Norman isn't just going after the royals anymore. He wants to exterminate all demon kind.
Oh, that's a bit of an extreme, but I mean,
Yeah. He's just starting with the capital because I think I explained this to you before, but the demons, if they don't keep eating human meat, they start to devolve. So I'm
yes, yes.
thinking after his capital genocide, that's when he'll just kind of let the regular procedures occur naturally to all the outlying villages and cities and such once the
Hmm.
production has finally ceased.
Yeah, makes sense.
So
Makes sense.
he's like, I just killed a bunch of demons. What do I care if they do, others devolve? So,
Yeah,
and,
exactly. Yeah.
but yeah, so, um, she's asking Musica for help because Musica has this ability where her blood, if a demon eats it or consumes it, they no longer need human meat. They
Oh,
won't.
so they can literally choose not to if they just ingest her blood.
Yes, this is actually why she was hunted down 700 years ago
Okay.
because
Kind of
she would actually destroy the status quo that the royals had at that
that
point in
built, yeah.
time. So,
What they had built their whole thing on, and as you said, the powerful love staying powerful.
yep, that they do. And so yeah, it's just her, heartfelt plea. It's like, help us, like you can help stop this genocide because Emma, like originally she was kind of for the whole killing the demons plan. I mean, it seemed like the only thing early on, but then after meeting Musica and Sunjun and seeing that they didn't need meat to survive like the other demons, they she changed her opinion.
Right,
And this is
exactly.
actually something that a lot of people in the community piss on Emma all the time. It's like, oh, she just changed her mind. It's like, but that's what people do. You gain new information, you see a new way that's better than your old way of thinking. You
Exactly.
evolve. So,
Exactly, exactly. And I mean, people. I mean, even if you're not an ignorant person, and you still do that, like I can only base, and you can only base, everyone can only base their opinions on what they've experienced and what their situation and their lifestyle has been like. You don't need someone who's never tasted a drop of alcohol to tell a drinker how to control it, or to to have what's the classic thing, an unmarried marriage counselor.
yeah.
That's the classic thing people call people like that, right? So until you have that set of experience, or until you come across something that changes your perspective, and we see that in everything all the time, like every form of media and entertainment. So I don't know why people would be ticked about that. That actually makes her a more rounded character to me. But
I think it's just that they forget. Like, it's like me. I'll forget a detail here or there, but it's like her motivations, while they've changed a little bit, overall, like keeping her family safe and her
mm-hmm.
just love of life in all its many forms has remained constant. It was just that was the only way she, saw it in the beginning. Which, who else would view it any other way? It's like the demons want to eat us. We gotta do something about them.
Yeah, it's like that movie. Like the classic thing is zombies. Zombies eat people.
Yep.
Walking Dead, zombie movies. There's that movie called like Warm Touch or whatever, Warm Bodies or something.
Yeah,
It was a
warm
comedy.
bodies.
Yeah, a comedy zombie movie where like they were starting to regress back to alive. I mean, the premise didn't make sense, but
Yeah.
you would just assume, oh, they're zombies, they're going to eat me. Well, no, these zombies were starting to. The first guy was starting to slowly. No, he didn't want to eat the girl. So like as you said before, there is that that level. You just have to, and as you said, people tend to forget the key details, right?
Yeah.
That's all.
But anyway, yet again, another chapter goes by. We do not know what Emma's side of the promise is. Ray asked her once she came back from the Seven Walls, it's like, did you set up the promise? And she's like, yep. And it's like, what was the reward that the demon god wanted? And she's like, we'll talk about that later. It's time to head to the capital.
Oh, that's a bit of a that's a tease.
Yeah.
That's
and
a big
obviously
tease.
Music and that group is heading to the capital as well. And yeah, I do worry, and I'm I'm not going to say it, especially with Richard not here watching. He had a theory about
Oh, did
Emma,
he?
but
I'm sure Richard has multiple theories about everything, buddy.
I
And
don't.
when you watch this later, Richard, when you watch this later, you can at me for that.
Yeah, but that was about the chapter. It
Mm-hmm.
was good. It's setting up, we're in the final arc anyway, so
Right.
unless we get like a spin-off or something.
Well, I will admit I do actually listening to you talk about it for I guess we've almost had a month now of these podcasts. Um,
This will be the 5th week.
there we go. So it actually has interested me more than I thought. As I said, for anybody out there who watches later or is watching now, I did read Promised Neverland and dropped Promised Neverland. Not that it was bad, just wasn't my cup of tea. So just want to make that clear. But yeah. So,
Yeah,
anyways,
once you get over certain like aspects of it that like you don't expect, because like the genre kind of changes with each arc. It keeps my interest anyway, because it's
yeah,
not like a battle shonen where it's like you basically know what's going to happen before the next arc even begins.
right. It's a
So
multi-genre series,
yep.
which is good. But as we talked about, my problem was at the time, the beginning of the series is an oversaturated genre in not just manga and anime right now, but in TV and movies. For me
Yeah.
personally, just so that's probably what got me just away from it, you know. But that being said, um, yeah. So I think the chapter sounded pretty good.
But that's it for the Promised Neverland. Do you have anything to cover?
Sure. Why don't we talk about? And I'm not even going to because I'm right now bacon wrapping some chicken tits here for my supper. So, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, they're called BS tits. Come on, they're chicken. It's breast. Tit is another name for breast. Come on, come on. They're synonyms. Let's call a spade a spade. So, anyways, so while I'm doing the cooking aspect of this, and for those of you who want my recipe, just comment down below. I'll tell you how to do a Cajun spiced black pepper bacon wrapped chicken tit. Oven baked too. Now, since we're covering food, why don't we go Shokugeki no Soma, which you guys all thought was over. It's not over. I'm not even going to look at the chapter because, as I said to Keisha, I wouldn't take up more time. I've already abused my time with the Escanor fanboying. Shokugeki no Soma. Le Dessert Part 2. Why in the hell? Why in the goddamn name of hell? And check out my review if you want to see how angry I was. Yes, I was a little drunk at the time. It was 2 in the morning after doing my One Punch Man live stream. But I was pissed. That was a real reaction. And I'm still pissed. I'm still very pissed off. Because this is basically an insult to every series that was good. Love them or hate them. Toriko was good. Bleach was good. They were popular. I can't think of any more off the top of my head. Those are the two major ones I can stick out that had rushed, shitty jumps is canceling our series endings. Shokugeki no Soma came off the worst arc that got worse and worse. The popularity dropped. It was getting bad. Chances to fix it, opportunities. I made a whole video last year at the time where you could still salvage this. And we could say, okay, 20 bad chapters. But we built upon those. But it kept getting from bad to worse. Then we got the worst ending in history for manga. Just a random, yeah, we're done. No answers, no nothing. The only saving grace was that we were going to get 3 monthly release chapters in Giga. We get this. And Bleach and Toriko did not get this. Nobody said, okay, yeah, you got to rush your ending, but we'll give you a few months. We'll give you a quarter of the year, and you can have 45-page chapters to kind of round out an epilogue. Shokugeki no Soma gets this. They get it. And what do they do with it? They fuck it all up. They burn it. They take a beautiful piece of AAA Kobe beef, or well, that would be actually grade 5. So, but it's nice, beautiful strip loin that you spent $20 on, and they think that well done is the way to do it with no seasoning. It is the worst thing you could possibly try to swallow. It is just garbage. Number 1 was okay. This was absolute burnt fish on a plate. And if any of you have smelled burnt fish, it's one of the worst things you can burn. This was so bad. I don't need to go through a panel by panel or page by page. I just needed this quick rant. And just to build it up to explain it to you guys, that we have had better series coming off of, yes, the Fullbring arc was crap. A lot of people don't like it. Some defend it now. But at the end of the day, the 1,000-Year Blood War was not a bad arc. But we come off of that, and we're like, yeah, but we're going to rush it now. People actually liked the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. Toriko came off of, I mean, Toriko was always good. I didn't even feel like it was that rushed. Like, it was rushed for Toriko, but still had a half-decent ending. We were going to space. We were going to go to space. I want to know what a space comet mammoth tastes like. I wanted that information. Didn't get it. But Shokugeki no Soma, with that shit arc, is going to get this, and they squander it. What we get, Keishan, just here's what it boils down to. The chapter basically goes, it tells us the backstory of, because what do we always need to know? We need to know what Luffy's mother is like. We need the backstory of Dragon and Luffy's mother because it's so relevant, right? I mean, we all crave that. We need to know Ichigo's mother. We need to know about Luffy's mother. We always need to know about our protagonists in Shonen, their family, right? The father, mother. Okay. Same deal here. Don't have a problem with that. This was just rounding out some backstory, some world building. I was fine with it. And they tell the story. Okay, they don't tell us how she died or whatever, because we know she's dead by this time.
Well,
but
then
we
that's not
see
telling the story.
no, but we never saw her before. So now we see how how his father met his mother, how they ended up falling in love, how he changed from 180 from when we saw him as a teenager to the father figure he is, how the mother affected. We got a backstory, right? Mm-hmm. Totally fine. And then here at the end, because I still don't want to take up too much time, is just the other half basically says that the character, that would have been all fine, but that the main heroine of this series, who was character trashed on at the end of this arc, the end of the series, that her father, who was a manipulated son of a bitch, he went and was depressed because the other character left the cooking world, and so depressed that he went and banged a bunch of bitches without wearing a rubber. Wear a condom, kids. And that person is the villain who was actually after his half-sister this whole last arc. So not only was this arc terrible, but the villain, the actual main villain or antagonist for the whole worst arc, was actually her half-brother the entire time.
Fucking Melrose Place up in this piece.
Yeah. And he was trying to make her his bride. Yeah. The whole arc. So now you've taken a bad arc, and now you've just added incest into it. Just for fun. And it didn't need that. It didn't need that. That antagonist did not need it. That antagonist actually had an okay backstory. You can have a character. This is a problem with shonens in general, in that demographic. Protagonist character does not need to have superpowered parents. The parents can be normal. You don't need to have Hohenheim and fucking Inuyasha and fucking
Ishin Kurosaki. You don't always need to have, especially both parents. You don't need both parents to be super relevant and important. You can just have a regular goddamn parent. But nobody seems to believe this. So they had to make the main villain of the last arc had to be relevant and had to get his skills from. And it made sense because the best chef in the series trained him as a young boy. So that made total sense as to why he was skilled and good by this point in the series. They could have left it at that. But no. Had to be the gene pool. And they had to pull some random. 20 years ago, he went and banged a bunch of random chicks. Just so happened to be this drunken mother. Just so happened to have a kid. Just so happened to meet the mentor who trained him to go fight against them. Like, that's the chapter. And they basically go and they find him again and they go, yeah, so we can't really have a family dinner if all the family's not there, baka. And I'm like, I'm done. I don't even know if I want to review the next chapter. I promise everyone, because Shokugeki no Soma was one of my biggest view counts next to Seven Deadly Sins on my channel. I don't even know if I can stomach reading chapter 03.
That's actually kind of funny given it's a food series.
Exactly. You have noticed a lot of my food references and puns in this, haven't you? But even as angry as I am. So I've taken up enough time. This is more of a rant, and I apologize to Keishan, and I apologize to everyone else.
I wasn't even here for most of it.
There you go. See, Keishan left because he was like, oh, no, Griever's off his rocker.
No, I had a bladder.
Oh, well, that too.
A full bladder, nature called.
Yeah. So suffice it to say, this was terrible, and it actually takes a bad arc and made it worse by proxy. It's like you tried to fix something, and you somehow fuck it up more. Like you've got a leak in your basement, and by trying to fix a leak in the basement, you cause a leak upstairs. That's literally. I was
going to say it's like, you tried to fix the leak in the basement, but then you opened the window to the basement, and while there's a flood outside.
Any type of reference you want to use, that works too. It's basically like you had one problem, and you actually did. Not only did you not fix that problem, you added more problems to it. It's so bad. It's just so bad. So
kind of what you're summing this up is maybe not read this like spin-off, like wrap up conclusion bit to the series.
But the problem is, Keishan, without it, it's almost a requirement because without at the very least you have to read Le Dessert 1. Because without it, you get no conclusion. There has never been a more cliffhanger rushed ending than Shokugeki no Soma, period, of any manga I ever read. Without it, you're basically stalled. There should be 5 more chapters. Like, the ending of the actual official weekly release, it's not an ending. It's abrupt. It's to be continued next week. So it's required if you want an actual to know what happens. But we didn't really want to know this. That's the problem. So anyways, I'm done. Move on to a series of yours. I'll rant about that for another time.
I've technically got 5 chapters over 2 series because it was that kind of week. Fire Force was ridiculous with its chapter drops, but Beastars, like, it came out like the day after we were going to do it. Like, it came out that Saturday, and then another one came out, so it was a good Beastars couple of chapters. The first one, Juno is still there, like, she wants love advice from Lugosi, to get her deer.
Oh, yes.
Because it's like, you're the master of interspecies love, kind of deal. That's how she's viewing him. But,
well, I mean, whatever floats your boat, I guess.
But what's kind of interesting is that she actually, like, you know how normally with love, like, you feel the butterflies in your stomach? She just feels hungry.
I should talk to my wife about that.
Well, it's just, think about it. She's the carnivore in this relationship. So if she feels hungry when she thinks of the guy she loves, that kind of puts up a few red flags.
Yeah, exactly. Because she could be mistaken almost. This could be more of just affection and infatuation from the scent and the hunger rather than the.
Yep.
It could
Which
something to do with it.
Legosi does say that this is a part of it because he's felt the same way about Haru, who is a rabbit.
Oh, I see. So they are referencing it.
Yes. It's just over time you kind of dull yourself to it, you'll get used to it, and like philosophy is kind of his deal. Let's see, how did he word it? Like that's his secret. Whenever I worry that I might eat Haru-chan or that I should give up on having a relationship with her, my body tends to be in a terrible condition. So what if I do is eat what's good for my body, exercise, and sleep. So basically just good, healthy habits.
Right. Which actually is something you're supposed to do. Like, for example, me, just a quick wrap up, I drink a little too much in the summer. So to off-put it, my wife is always like, okay, well, I want you to do this, this, and this, and this, right? Mm-hmm. It just keeps, keep the chores up. It's like, okay, like I usually did a whole big chore day, or I pick a chore weekend in the month to get everything done. She goes, no, spread it out. Then you don't feel like the need because you're not just sitting around lazing around, work on your YouTube videos and edit them and stuff like that. And then, go out and clean the garage and
keep
mow
the
lawn.
idle hands busy, huh?
Exactly. And work out 5 times a week, like just do stuff, as you said, idle hands,
Sounds
keep
like
them
she
busy.
just wants a hunky hubby.
Well, that too. I mean, I have been slack. The fact of the matter is that even as working out as much as I do, I don't exactly have the 6-pack I do in the winter so much as I do in the summer. So she'd rather me have the 6-pack more so in the summer where it's, shirtless
well, when
season.
you're actually supposed to show it off.
Exactly. She goes, nobody wants to see a 6-pack in the winter. Everyone's so cold and they're wondering why the hell you're not wearing clothes.
Yeah, put that keg back in the closet. I want the 6-pack in the summer.
Exactly. So, but yeah, so I totally understand that actually makes sense from a real world perspective.
But yeah, so that's kind of the first half of the chapter. The second half actually gets into some aspects of the world that we didn't know about. The two of them go out to get some lunch, to kind of quell some of that hunger that she's feeling. They go to a nice little restaurant, but as on their way there, like, people just start parting ways. Remember, they're both of the same species, they're gray wolves. So, people are viewing them as a couple, even though they're not. And because of their, they're carnivores and everything, people like look at them as like, oh, we gotta, clear the way for this lovely young couple kind of deal. Like that they're a higher being of sorts. And they like get a free dessert and everything at the restaurant, and like as they're just kind of absorbing all this, it's like, this is weird. But then we get some intel to what same species relationships are like. When two of the same species are married, they actually get a blessing from the country, where they get a loan, and this can help them, buy a house or whatever they want. And then when they start having children that are purebred as well, they continue to get money from the government.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good deal.
It's interesting how this works, and me and Richard were like, where the hell does this money come from? And we saw like numerous ways of how this could be, totally like used and abused. Like, you get married to someone who you don't even give a shit about, but like your parents have pushed you together because you're the same species, and it's like, come on, you could use the money, it'd be a nice, help you get started in this life. It's like, but no, it's like, say you're a wolf, but it's like, oh, you really like that cheetah next door, So it's like, you get married to the wolf that the parents keep pushing you towards, but then you get some nice, cheetah fuckings on the side.
Wow.
Something like that. I could see it being abused all day.
Yeah, yeah. It really, by the sounds of it, it really could.
Um, but anyway, another incident occurred of predation as they were leaving the restaurant, and a reporter, like just kind of, or no, wait, it was, let's see, maybe it wasn't predation. I think that was what they thought it was, but it was just kind of a, just a little piece that they were doing for the news. And they see this nice little couple, and it's like, oh, they look cute. It's like, let's see if they'll answer some questions. And they're talking about, like, what do you say about the risk of carnivores and herbivores living together? And Juno grabs the mic, and it's like, I'm madly in love with a male deer.
Wow, okay, so went balls to the wall with that one.
And then it's like, and if I let the risk scare me, then he'd reject me. And then they're like, cut the camera, cut the camera.
So, that is not what they needed.
So, yeah. Anyway, they head back to Lugosi's apartment. She decides to stay the night. He's like, hey, you stay in my room, because just in case you're not comfortable, I'll stay with a roommate. Because, like, he's friends with basically all the residents at the condo, so. And she just kind of keeps pondering, like the smile that she's always had. It was but can I say I love this world? And then it kind of ends with a funny little thing of Lugosi's staying in the apartment of a seal, and he sleeps naked.
Wow.
Yeah. Luckily,
okay.
the little talk bubble, like Lugosi's like, hey, can I get you some pants, basically, as a present, some pajamas maybe, and he's like, no thank you. And that talk bubble is covering his junk, so I'm very thankful.
Yeah, you didn't really need to see that to get the implication, right?
You could have just said, oh, I sleep in the nude, and you just have an uncomfortable Lugosi face, but no. And then the next chapter is pretty simple. This follows the backstory of a group of 500 rats. They're called the 500 Cornered Rats. That's
a lot of rats.
Yes. They work in a way that you would never believe. We've actually seen them several chapters back before, like, this arc really got started. They
really?
work under Yafia, who is the horse character.
Okay.
It's because he essentially gave them a better way of life after helping them out of a jam. But basically, they were criminals.
Okay.
And he's, like, above the police, basically. So, he had some pull. What they did was, because they're small mammals, they steal from bigger mammals who have also stolen. And that was how they did their stealing. And we get to see a little bit of the flashback of, like, I don't know what kind of animals they were, but they had just robbed a bank or whatever, and they thought they were being chased by a bear, and they're like, how the hell did you catch up with us? Turns out it was all the rats just formed together in the form of a bear. It's what they do. You don't even know until, like, the next thing, and then one of I think it's the leader of the mice, and he, like, just kicks out one of the guy's eyes.
Jesus. Some brutality going on in here.
Oh, yes. This series can be full of it at times. But hey, half the characters have teeth, claws, and stuff that render flesh in nature, so what do you expect?
That's true.
But anyway, like I said, they steal from, thieves themselves, so they kind of just view it as a justice, as it were. Kind of a Robin Hood-esque thing, just they don't give it to the poor, they give it to themselves.
Yeah, so less heroic and more...
Yeah.
Thief.
Well, essentially, while they, like, know the back streets and everything really well, because, they have to evade, pursuit of the cops and people they've stolen from.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the cops finally got them. Just
Oh,
trapped
wow.
them all or they got the leader in a bag. And it's like, oh, it's been a while, but we finally sniffed you out. and the boss is like, guys, get the hell out of here. Save yourselves. Don't worry about me. And they're like, boss, we ain't going to leave you. And they just walked into a giant duffel bag.
Wow.
That's how devoted they were. And
That's
we find
loyal.
out that in this world, mice live to the age of 43. And that's with modern science. Because, like, your average mouse, only lives to about 5. So
Yeah.
their life expectancy is much longer, but it's still shorter compared to other larger breeds. And we see, like, the kind of just the downside of being a smaller mammal. Like, it's hard to find things that are size appropriate. Like, say, a pair of scissors, that was the example. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to make it that small, and they have to use, like, certain walkways, and that's why these group of criminal mice work together. It helped to kind of bridge the gap of their size.
Oh, I see.
But, you see them being interrogated by the cops because, like, the loot stockpiles that they haven't been found yet, and they want to return that to their rightful owners. So they just this rhino grabs the bag and just starts swinging it into the wall. It's like, you going to tell us, punks? He's really playing bad cop.
Okay.
And all the mice are just inside, and it's like, men, just grab each other and ball up. We'll make it through this, to kind of protect themselves. They're, like, being hit on their backs.
Oh, I see, yeah.
But then that's when Yafia comes in. He's like, all life is equal. Stop that shit. And they're like, we can explain. It don't work that way, and he just kicks them right into a wall.
Yeah, he's like, nope, not having it.
And we do find out that this was 10 years ago. So, like, the mice have been working for him that long, which, that's a fourth of their lifespan.
Jesus.
And it's like, he was going to kind of, like, interrogate the boss a little bit to, like, let's see, what exactly was his phrasing? Like, he didn't, like, he knows that it's a pain in the butt to try and save lives, but it's still his job nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
But they still weren't going to tell him anything, even though he's being nice to them. But then the underlings are just like, it will help.
Like, yeah, we're gonna help.
So that's how they essentially start working under him, and then we get more of a present day kind of deal where the leader, he's an old guy now,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll be passing on, and you have, like, all of his, his comrades all there, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, I've spent a fourth of my life with you, and it's like, it's been good, but this whole dealing with, like, one criminal at a time deal is kind of not so good. And
Yeah,
plus, let's see, to keep a watchful eye and save disadvantaged animals like us, it's like he saw it as, like, such an honor. So that's why they don't mind as much. But given Marin, the big bad of this arc, they're advising him to get Lugosi's help.
okay.
It's like, I don't know if we can help you dealing with this guy. So, it's like, and the young wolf looks like he's got some potential. But Yafia's like, hey, I already, broke the contract with him, It's like, oh, well, that's fine, because we gave him you've already kind of sealed his involvement in this. You gave him Marin's mask that he was wearing the night that the events that occurred where Lugosi was injured.
Right.
He now has an article of clothing that he can sniff out. because
So he's good to go.
yes, he's now Legosi the Tracker.
Mm-hmm.
So that was basically Beastars. It was like there's chapters like that where it kind of goes off the rails in terms of like plot wise. This one really circled back to the plot, but other ones are like completely self-contained. One chapter, like there's one about a chicken and like her, like she sells her eggs and everything, and Lugosi loves her eggs, and he could tell the difference when it wasn't an egg that she was selling.
Oh, that's
So,
pretty cool.
so she took further pride in it and all that kind of deals. So, and she was like, "Oh, well, I have one good customer," and she hated him because he was always like sleeping in class and everything. So,
Mm-hmm.
so it really changed her opinion on him. And there's like a couple chapters like that where it revolves around this more self-contained plot. But this one, like I
Just
said, circled back around.
okay. Well, it sounds pretty good.
But but yeah, I recommend you read it. It'll be getting an anime in October. I keep forgetting to say that.
To promote that, yeah. It's what generally it's animes that really start getting these things.
Yeah, it gets you at least into the plot, and then you'll start reading the manga when there's no more episodes to watch. But that was it for Beastars. Anything else you need to cover?
Doctor Stone,
Ah,
Doctor 115 was amazing. I have said before that I'm not a huge of the current arc. Not that it's bad, just not a fan. But this chapter, the feels this brought, Byakuya, not from Bleach, Byakuya, who is Senku's father, is dad of 2019. So just he's dad of 2019, and nobody can argue that because this man, of course, petrified world, 3,700 years. You know, humans haven't been around pretty much. He was in space, and he came back within the first like 6 months. Like the first, like when they realized what happened, they came back from their that the world had been fine. So what they did was they started like saving up. Like they were smart. They were astronauts, and they were like the whole team was like, okay, here's what we got to do. We need to save the future. These people are going to wake back up. We need to leave something behind. The more explain this chapter, we have ripped the Earth's surface clean of proper materials, of resources. We now have to dig for gold. We have to dig for metals, platinums and stuff, and we need to dig deep. They're not going to have the technology because build it. So it's just going to be an uphill battle, right? Basically, what he did after setting up the 100 Tales of dialogue stuff and a lot of history of the manga, but basically after setting everything up, when he did as much as he could, we see him at the age of like in his 40s, and in his 50s, and in his 60s, 70s. He's got to be in his 80s, and he's just constantly after basically shows that they went after platinum. They need platinum. It's one of the rarest metals, right?
yeah, that's going to be a tough one.
They need platinum. So they find this treasure chest that's supposed to contain platinum, and it's just a bottle that has a bunch of dust in it, but it's actually shining. They realize after giving it to Senku, it's gold dust. It's actually usually found in rivers and stuff. How they originally used to do it, right?
Mhm.
And he finds a little piece of platinum. He goes, because in a 0.00, and he does the math. It's crazy. And he goes, like, but within gold dust, sometimes you can get super lucky and find this little bit of platinum. And so we'll run down to the river right now and start sifting. We'll work all day and night. And he's like, you could work for, and you might not find any. Like, that's how rare this shit is, right? And then sifting through the gold dust, and they find one nugget, two nuggets. And it's a very small piece, but they find like a dozen, maybe more, and they're all looking. And Senku, I mean, the main character, they're like, how many decades did this take to collect this much? They're amazed by it. Byakuya, and we see him as he's aging. He day and night, and we in his 50s and 60s, they're pulling him out of the river at the end of the night, like going, "Are you all right?" and stuff, because he, for the rest of his life, from morning till dusk, went to the river and caught this gold dust, and constantly tried to find as much as he says. I need to collect as many rare metals and minerals as possible for the future, because he had faith that his son would wake up and one day, and he would be able to find this bottle. He'd be able to find what he left behind and all this stuff. He had total faith in him, and it's such a beautiful thing, because he as I said, and he found all this platinum, and it was plenty, like way more than they needed. And he was just like super happy. Damn. We see him at the end of the day. He's an old man, and he's in his 80s, and he falls into the river.
Oh.
And he dies in the river.
Oh.
So he lays there and he dies, and his last thought is Senku, and like sort of idea. They talk to like, wow, like Byakuya, like to and sort of idea, and Senku goes, well, we're not actually related by blood, and they're like, what are you talking about? Does that even, like, why does that matter? He was still your dad and stuff, right? And they're all getting kind of thing at him, and he goes, well, I asked him one time, whose son I was, and he said, you're my best friend's ever, because he knew he was adopted. And he goes, and I never pried any further, because you guys are right. He goes, matter then, and it never actually mattered at all. Really nice line, Senku. He's already cried for his dad and stuff in the past. This time, really nice artwork, really nice face. So, like, no, it didn't matter. That was still my dad, and it was just really nice, and I really liked it. And so they acquire the platinum and everything, and it's just we see, and as they're just flashing back and forth, showing Senku and his dad, and anyways, it's really nice. It's just a great moment and stuff. And I mean, he worked for, somebody did it at the time, I think it was 31 years. 31 years he went down to that river every day, and from dawn till dusk, just to collect this little bit. And it's like it's the size of a pint bottle worth of it. That's all he got, but that's how much he worked and saved away and stuff. And it's just a really great chapter, right in the feels. Dr. Stone 115, just awesome. Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna have to start reading that. Like, I like science as a whole. Like, I don't understand all of it, obviously, but who does?
Well, they do a really excellent job of explaining it, and right now, Keisha, start getting 4 episodes in, and it follows the manga almost. They move some scenes around, but it's basically OVA. So,
and I've heard the anime is beautiful, so I guess would be a good time to get into that.
Yep, that's why I review it and watch it, because it's pretty great. So, but anyways, do you got one on the doctorate there for us?
I've got one left.
Okay.
Fire Force, 3 chapters, but
Fire Force.
I know.
Yes.
Another one that is still new to the anime game, but mostly we're heading towards the prison where Obi is, Captain Obi of Company 8. Due to how quickly they need to get there, because they don't know what's going to happen to him, though. Due to the I always forget what it's called because of the translation change. The not Endura, but whatever. It's this connection that certain users have, and Shinra got a telepathic message, basically, and that's how they found out that Obi was going to be turned into an infernal with a bug, which is how a lot of the infernals have been made throughout the series. We just didn't always know. And so him and Joker, because Joker was a baddie for earlier in the series, but now they're on the same side. They're kind of getting over some of the past issues. He's riding on a motorcycle. Shinra is flying with his fire feet, basically, because he doesn't have a name for them. I think he called them or his nickname was Devil Feet or something, so I guess that could be it. Who knows? But yeah, so they're heading through the Nether, which is the sewer system and everything below the rebuilt civilization of Tokyo. And they're trying to get there as fast as they can. They encounter the captain of Company 1, Leonard Burns. He is also of the... I keep wanting to say Endura, but it is not that. Why can't I remember what the hell... Adola. I know that's not how I originally used to pronounce it, but whatever. Adola. He
got it now.
He's connected with it as well. And he's kind of acting as a sentry now that the companies and the white cloaks are working together. He's just seeing it as more of his duty to continue, protecting the world, as it were. And even though what they're probably going to do is going to end up ending the world, so yeah.
Oh, you win some, you lose some.
Always. But yeah, so he's acting as sentry. He snaps his fingers. A white cloak comes out, or a white hood comes out. And they have Obi chained to this. I want to call it a cross, but it's not really a cross. And they were just going to turn him into an infernal right there, more or less. But then that's when Shinra comes in, doesn't do a damn thing to Burns. He just
can't even touch him,
barely. And he's been getting stronger, so that's why it's kind of sad that there's still that much of a gap. But it is regular fire soldier versus a captain, especially when they're both fire users. So anyway, Joker jumps in. He's pretty good combat wise. He was kind of going toe to toe with Burns for a bit, but he gets knocked back, and then they're just kind of tag teaming him back and forth. Who can ever get in a hit? Was for the best. But we find out that Burns's ability basically works the opposite of Endeavor's, where Endeavor he'll steadily get weaker because he's being burnt out as he uses his flames. Burns is the total opposite. He's getting stronger the more he fights.
Well,
so yeah, it's a tough looking battle, and by the I think it's the second chapter, he's into stage 2, and he looks kind of scary. He's just it's just a dark outline, and he's just all covered in flames and whatnot, and it's just
damn.
And he has an eye patch, and that's where his flames originate from, is the eye patch, because he lost his eye when he got his powers. So but then we change over back to the rest of Company 8. They've somehow procured a truck somewhere. It might have already been Joker's or whatever, and they're heading through the Nether because, it's harder to move a larger group of people, and plus the two of them that went ahead were a lot faster. So, the lieutenant of Company 8, he's continuing to strengthen this resolve of, we're rebels and we're gonna destroy that prison, kind of deal. It's like, are you all with us, or are you, actually, do I need to dump your asses out here, kind of deal?
Yeah, yeah.
And let's see. I have to remember which characters. There's too many of them to keep up with. It was Maki and Tamaki. And I believe Iris as well. But no, I think that's Arthur. They're like, some of them were still a little on the fence, especially Tamaki. But then they're just, yeah, let's destroy the prison.
Okay, so they changed their tune pretty quick.
It's all part of. It's like a fairy tale effect. Where you're part of the group. Even if it's against your better judgment, you're still going to go with the majority. So
yeah, of course.
And this one butcher that we finally learned her name. Turns out it's a woman. I think I told you about her before. She's the one that killed the Company 4 commander. Yes.
You made the reference, or I made the reference. I was like, Company 4 commander, Blackbeard, anybody?
She actually, no one understands how her fire ability works. I don't even know if she does. She can control gold.
That's pretty intense.
I wonder if it has something to do, and it was like long after the fact that I thought of it, was, how gold has a lower boiling or melting point?
Yes,
so
it does.
I'm wondering if that's where the connection is. So it's like a metal she can manipulate a lot easier.
Maybe.
But she's basically like Magneto, it seems like. But it's only with gold.
Well, gold is also very, in nature, gold is also very soft.
Yeah.
Very malleable. So, like 24 karat gold, you can smush that with your
Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Are you there?
Yep.
It disconnected, sorry. But I think I saved
that.
it.
Okay, saved.
I think. No, wait. Shit, is it not? Let's see.
It happens.
Is the timer ticking? The timer doesn't seem to be ticking. Crap. Of course. I couldn't save it that time. Had such a good roll going. But the last bit of the chapter gets kind of confusing. They start talking about doppelgangers and everything. And that's when I started, I don't even know what they're talking about anymore. Because there's, so much about the Adola link that we don't really know about, so maybe it'll all become true or more relevant with time. But also there's going to be another enforcer who's known as Dragon. He's like this bald guy and everything. Oh, it's saying we're not even live. Fuck. Who's known as Dragon. He's like this bald guy and everything.
It's there. It's there. Keep talking.
But it wasn't saying it was live. Weird, the timer isn't ticking though. But yeah, so we don't know what his powers are right now. We just got a good glimpse at him. He looks pretty intimidating though, so who's to say?
Oh, I see. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a pretty intense number of chapters coming up.
But then there's this one character who I don't ever remember their name. We've only seen them a few times. It's kind of this weird looking character. Starts mentioning the pi decoding era. Now we've seen the pi code. When it came to there was this particular location, and they found these tablets, and all the tablets had part of the pi, numerical value.
Right.
And I think it was actually Arthur who's the most spaced out fucking character.
Okay.
He's the one who thinks he's a knight. It's all because
yeah.
I mean, he uses a plasma sword, basically, but that's about as close to a knight. But, we get to actually see what his super fire is. It's a technique that him and Shinra were learning.
Okay.
The 7th Company Commander, it's another level to their abilities. Basically, after they've exhausted themselves and put themselves basically at death's door, they unlock super fire. But
Okay.
while Shinra kind of is trying to adapt into that during his fight against, he makes like kind of like claw wings come out of the back of his feet during his fight with Burns. He did this once before, but I think that was from the Adola link. So that might have been hinting at it. Then, but with Arthur, because he's so damn delusional, he can put himself into a trance, more or less, and then just activate it. Because he did it on the way to the prison. He saw a lizard and he thought it was a dragon.
So he can basically do what Luffy did against Enru. Like, I'm just not going to think then.
Kind of, but not. It's just weird with him. I mean, if it wasn't for his annoying bits of his personality, he'd probably be pretty powerful and an overall good character. But I mean, I guess that's part of his charm.
Yeah, I mean, not every character is built for every single, like, type A person to like. You know, you need to have some type B in this, and, you know.
Yeah.
The way it goes.
Yeah.
He sounds kind of interesting to me, honestly.
Yeah, it was interesting when you finally learned his backstory, not to, spoil you too much. But it was his parents that put that mindset into him, and then his delusional self just upped it to the nth degree until finally he was abandoned.
Wow. We don't need more abandoned kids in manga.
I know. But anyway, but the chapter kind of ends with a little bit of a weird thing. Home, she was like one of they're called the pillars. They're what they call people that have the Adola link. Shinra is one of them. I think he was the 4th one. It's hard to remember. I think there's like 8 of them now.
Okay.
But she has like this like electric fire ability, and she can kind of do like telepathy and stuff as well. She has a lot of abilities, but she can like do like electric blasts and all that kind of stuff. Her powers are kind of cool.
Oh, wow.
She's at the end, she sees the moon and the sun, and it looks like they might be intersecting into like kind of a, either a solar or lunar eclipse. I'm not sure. But and the last thing is a sun and a moon shining suspiciously, the flames overflowing from the soul meet death in the new world. What is this world in which Evangelius, or whatever, like the whatever the freaking religious people. I can't say the words, people. Is trying to lead her. So, and then the next chapter was called Strike the Gold, which presumably Gold, which is the name of that gold manipulating character, is going to play a role in again. So, yeah. So, the chapters are fun. Sometimes it's hard to understand what the hell's going on, as I said, but it can be fun.
Well, it does, like, once again, I just really need to buckle down. There's a few series, like Fire Force and stuff, that I just have not, it took me a long time for Kingdom, too. And Kingdom was a much longer thing. So I should be able to catch up with some of these series very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's only 182 chapters right now. But
that's not too bad.
But it doesn't update always. Like, I got 3 chapters in a week.
True.
So, And here I thought it was finally getting consistent now that it has an anime, but,
I guess not.
Nope. And I mean, hell, Soul Eater was the same way. But, same author and everything, so.
Yep, but sometimes it might depend on the mangaka's health too. At times, so we don't need them killing themselves, right?
That's always true.
Like that's why people always say like Oda needs to take more breaks. Let him take more breaks, man. Look at Tite Kubo. He nearly killed himself to finish Bleach, I guess.
I didn't know.
So. Yeah, I guess he was like constantly, but he was trying to push stuff out. Like he really needed when he hiatus, which I don't understand how things like Berserk and Hunter x Hunter and are allowed to take such hiatuses and still keep their contract. People like if Kubo had wanted to do that for Bleach, say, look guys, I need a month. I need to recuperate, sit down, think about the direction of the story, blah blah blah, and I'll bring you some gold later. They would have said no. So I don't understand how some of them get to keep going. But anyways, that's neither here nor there.
But yeah, that was it for me. We're almost at 3.25 hours.
Okay, then I can end I can end this off really quick. There's only one other one that I read.
I didn't know you had something else. I'm bad. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said it that way.
That's all right. I can end it pretty quick too because I didn't intend for it to go long. Is Black Clover. I read Black Clover this week, or last week or whatever. Not really much to say. For the diehard fans, of course, there was stuff, but nothing that super interested me because I don't really care about any of the elves. Hell, I can barely distinct like amongst them all. Like I know they're different characters and different. Yeah, pretty much.
Or elfist.
I'm an elfist. So, that being said, I thought it was a good chapter overall. As far as we're still in the ending parts of the arc, but I think the really big thing needs to be said is that, and spoilers for Keishan, spoilers for everyone who hasn't kept up, is that Julius is goddamn well alive. So I know that Zarsel from Grim Reaper's Discord and podcast will be goddamn well thrilled as a pig in shit because because Julius is somehow alive and a teenager and his grimoire is down to one page.
So he's basically reset.
Yeah, he said he stored up. It sounds sort of like an Escanor Rita Sun thing. He said he managed to store up 13 years or something of his life because his whole thing is time magic, and he died. And he was about probably 35, 40-looking-year-old man at the time.
So he's lost about 20 or so years.
Yeah. So right now, I don't know if that's implying he went back to being 13. Like, people are reading it different, and I'm not really sure which way I want to read it yet either, because the way he said it, it could imply that he has another 13 years, like he managed to reset his clock. Like, his death is still his death, but he managed to go back far enough that he's got another 13 years of life before he'll croak permanently. Mm-hmm. Or did it mean that he had enough power to send himself back to his 13-year-old self? He looks older than 13, but that's, some people are reading into that no, he went back to his 13-year-old self. People said he saved up 13 years worth of magic in his grimoire. That's why his grimoire is down to one page, and 13 years of magic put him back into his teenage prime, for example. There's multiple theories about what the 13 years mean, what this means for Julius. Is he back permanently? Is he back for only 13 years? What does it all mean? Is it really even Julius? Who the hell knows?
Maybe he made a clone and put him in chronostasis.
Well, the thing is, they went to Julius's grave after the arc to pay their respects, mm-hmm. and it was open. The grave was dug up, and he was standing there, sort of idea, in the trees, and he was like, "Hey, Yami, hey guys," and they're like, "What the hell?" He's like, "Hey,
you were just in this box. What the fuck's going on?"
Pretty much. So to wrap it all up, that's the only thing that's really worth talking about. It's a big thing, and I've already said there's multiple theories about what it means, what it implies. What's the next arc going to be about? This was kind of getting towards really a big part of the conclusion of Black Clover's main parts, right? There's no overbearing thing. I mean, there's still the devils and stuff to think about and deal with that they can expand on. But in the same way that Taizai refused to expand on the Goddess Clan very much. I mean, it may or may not ever happen. So I don't know where the new direction of the arc is going, but clearly it's going to start with Julius coming back from the dead. So big thing. He was a fan favorite. People liked him, and his death was a big deal. So some people will probably hate it because, like, once again, when you keep rezzing people, Dragon Ball Z syndrome, character deaths become meaningless. But
yeah, but with him having time magic, I mean, that's kind of always a thing. It's like averting death or resetting yourself or something. It's like it's always kind of there in the background. You just hope it doesn't go the way to where it lessens anything.
Exactly, and I would still argue, for example, using the example that people say, like, can't do the Dragon Ball Z syndrome, but I would argue that almost a lot of the character deaths in Dragon Ball Z were still very impactful and meaningful in the series. And there's still moments that people think are amazing to this day, like Vegeta blowing himself up. Everybody thinks that's a badass moment. Like, it doesn't matter, oh, well, we don't have Dragon Balls. You know they'll get Dragon Balls back in the end. You know they're going to win. But it doesn't take away from that moment. Goku
they can always go to
himself.
Namek.
Exactly. They always have those excuses, but it didn't take away from Vegeta's sacrifice. Didn't take away from Goku against Cell after Gohan got arrogant and stuff and pulled out his... Before Escanor was Escanor, there was Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. And just moments like that, right? So I don't think that it makes the death meaningless, but they do it a lot in manga and anime. Because the characters are fan favorites. You can't have them die, or if they do die, you got to bring them back. Yeah. So, but no, that's all I had to talk about. Black Clover. Once again, guys, I think both My Hero Academia and Black Clover have actually come into their own a lot better. My Hero Academia went leaps and bounds from a mediocre manga that people just hyped up like it was Naruto for, the Naruto fanboys didn't know where to go and they didn't like Boruto. But after stopping following Deku and Bakugo and following more so like the villains and Endeavor and Hawks and stuff, I think ever since like the late 100 chapters, like 160, 170, leading up from there all the way to where we are now has been the best part of My Hero, and it's really come into its own. And Black Clover got away from the shonen tropes and started building some three-dimensional characters. So I think they both did pretty well for having to climb over a few hurdles and hills. But that's my segment. So I think that's everything for today, Keishan. And once again, guys, this ran a little long. For one thing, we had to cover 2 Seven Deadly Sins chapters. A lot of my monthly releases came out.
And I had a few multi-chapter installments, so you're not completely to blame.
No. And of course, we're doing this also on a Monday and stuff, and things are a little more haphazard than usual. But anyways, next week will be shorter because there will be no Seven Deadly Sins.
Oh, wait, what?
To cover.
Yeah. I guess.
Because we already covered. Yeah. We already covered 321.
I was thinking, it's like, when did it say it was on break? Was it not translated and you've been reading something behind my back?
No. I don't think it's translated yet. If it is, I got to get down to that bar and start reviewing. So.
Yeah, I was like, wait, yeah, you make sense. It's like, why wasn't I thinking? But yeah.
So, but everything else should be there. But Shokugeki no Soma and Akatsuki no Yono won't be. So my segments will be much shorter next. And once again, go subscribe to Keishan's channel, which of course is what this podcast is on. Subscribe to my channel, which is in the link down below, because next week, or Saturday, Sunday, this weekend, we will have, of course, another podcast, and it'll be over on my channel. So make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow. Twitter and Discord and everything for Keishan is in the description and on screen.
And if you need links or anything to the manga we read, the sites we read from, join the Discord so that I can give them to you more directly, or I can give you links in the comments below at requested.
But of course, join the Discord so we can start having more discussions. Well, of course, we want to talk to you guys. I know that usually Keishan, because right now, of course, we're doing this an odd time and stuff, but we enjoy having the live chat going and stuff too, and we've had it on a couple of our podcasts, a few people jumping in here and there, and that makes it longer, but a lot more entertaining, a lot more fun. So make sure to constantly bring us the conversation, guys.
Yep. But yeah. I guess that's where we'll be ending it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. All that good stuff. Like always, I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I upload them to YouTube the next day in that cycle. I'll tweet it out when it goes live so that you can watch, in real time or whatever. But if not, you can always catch it on YouTube a couple days later. So, yeah. But thank you for watching. Subscribe to Griever. Good guy. Got a lot of good review content coming down the pipeline with him all the time. He's kind of
for the most part.
Yeah, well, you still review it well, even if the chapter is shit.
Call a spade a spade.
And he's getting a little bit into live reaction territory, so he's encroaching on me. I will get you back.
Live streaming, not live reaction. I'm doing better.
You were kind of reacting, about that One Punch chapter.
It's true. But I don't do it on a live reaction video. It was more of a stream that turned into, because people told me, jump on there. Like I said half an hour before, like, are you going to do a stream? And I said, yeah, I might do a stream to answer a few questions, just make it easier, because we're talking about Canada. And so I just said, yeah, I'll jump into stream and make it easier. And then everyone said, well, you should check out the One Punch Man chapter. It just dropped. And I said, okay, fuck it.
I forgot that's how that started, was the Canada questions.
It did. And for those of you who don't know, I am Canadian. So
that's why you'll hear him occasionally say "a" or "a."
I'll say "a there, bud. We living here up in igloos, eh?" God, it's snowing. It's snowing right now. Yep.
Anyway.
But yeah.
Follow us on our various links down below, all that good stuff, and yeah. Until next time, Keechlings and Grievelings, if you're here. Roll out. Mm-hmm.